Sure can't. When Luo Xiu's breath was rising, a loud voice came from far away. Luo Xiu's expression was twisted, his face was ferocious, and he cried out, "I've made up my mind." After one sentence, he stopped saying more. He kept pinching the formula in his hand, and his momentum was still rising rapidly. In the early stage of Jindanjing and the middle of Jindanjing and the late Jindanjing period until the later stage of Jindan realm, Luo Xiu's eyes were cold again, his eyes flashed a decisive look, his mouth gushed a mouthful of blood essence, and his gesture moved again. After climbing to the golden elixir realm, the breath became strong again, and finally stopped when it reached the peak of the golden elixir realm. The audience was silent, and countless people took in air conditioning. It's no wonder that Luo Xiu is so famous that almost no task fails. He has practiced these secrets, and has abruptly promoted his realm from the peak of Longmen realm to the peak of Jindan realm. It's a whole big realm. However, almost everyone knows that any secret method that can temporarily improve cultivation or skill has great side effects on the body, and even overdraw the potential of the body. In serious cases, it may have an irreversible impact on monks. It seems that Luo Xiu is really struggling. It was not only Luo Xiu who attracted the attention of many monks in the hall, but also Tan Xiao, another monk. Almost when Luo Xiu uses the secret method to enhance his momentum, Tan Xiao is also unwilling to lag behind. He moves his hand, and a quiet jade bottle appears in his hand. Then he takes out a pill and swallows it into his stomach. In the blink of an eye, Tan Xiao's body has undergone dramatic changes. His whole body is rapidly getting taller and thicker, and his body is constantly expanding. In a very short time, his height has reached more than 10 feet. Not only that, even his hands and face also appeared thick black hair, almost covering his own appearance, with the body no longer change. The shadow of a black bear slowly emerged behind Tan Xiao. The ancient bear law phase. Outside, suddenly a friar gave out an exclamation. This kind of ancient bear dharma is a kind of secret method, but it is far more complicated than the secret method inspired by Luo Xiu. Many people have only heard of this kind of secret method, and some people have never heard of it. This kind of secret method needs powerful body cultivation to refine the spirit of high-level bear beast, so that it can use bear beast's natural power in the battle. This kind of secret method doesn't have much side effect, but cultivating this method can change a person's mind and be influenced by animal nature. This secret method not only exists in bears, but also can be practiced by refining other kinds of animal spirits. However, no matter what kind of animal spirits are used, the success rate is extremely low. Tian naturally knew this secret method, but he didn't expect that Tan Xiao had succeeded in refining this magic power. No wonder he was extremely powerful and powerful. It turns out that the reason is not the same as that of one's own strength and physical strength. Luo Xiu and Tan Xiao are both undergoing dramatic changes, and they have almost completed the stimulation of the secret method. The next moment, two people have no nonsense, eyes a little touch, then with a strong momentum at the same time toward Tian. This attack is quite different from all previous attacks. It is almost equivalent to a top monk in the golden elixir realm and a fourth-level monster attacking Tian who has only the cultivation of Longmen realm at the same time. Many of the monks who had already been allied in the hall saw this scene, but they could not help changing their faces and retreated one after another, leaving a lot of space for Tian's three people. However, Yen Lai in the sky frowns when he sees this situation. He wants to move, but he doesn't move at last. Instead, he looks at the battle situation below, but he is ready to rescue Tian at any time. Because Luo Xiu and Tan Xiao are strong at this time, in Yen Lai's mind, they have exceeded Tian's endurance. Luo Xiu and Tan Xiao were so fast that they almost turned into two false shadows and attacked Tian. Tan Xiao had a black iron stick in his hand. He didn't know what material it was made of. When he waved it, a shadow of the stick fell on his head. Luo Xiu had a sword in his hand. When he cut it down, the sword was full of breath, with endless opportunities to kill. Both of them are very fast. It seems that this is not a contest, but a fight of life and death. There is no room for them. Tian's front and back are all covered with swordlight and stick shadow. There was silence all around, and they were watching the battle in front of them, which was impossible in the Longmen Shengzi election. At this time, Tian frowned slightly. When the shadow of the stick and the light of the sword fell, suddenly his momentum burst out again, more powerful than before.
He didn't take out any magic weapon.
Just like before, he smashed his right fist into the black stick, which fell down rapidly. Almost at the same time, his body was as strange as the breeze, avoiding the terrible sword of Luo Xiu.
Boom!
In a flash, the right fist and the black stick collided violently, with a loud bang. The strong impact force made Tan Xiao's black stick get out of his hand and fly into the air, and soon disappeared. Tan Xiao, however, flew backward in this powerful blow. After flying more than 100 feet, he hit the ground heavily. The black bear behind him also broke up and disappeared at the moment of landing.
This is Yi Tian's full blow.
Before that, he always had something to hold on to, otherwise there would be few monks who could survive. A boxing fly. Tan Xiao, Yi Tian body again a flash, meat attack to the second sword of Luo Xiu.
Lei Shu. Yi Tian gave a loud drink. As soon as the formula changed, a big thunder ran across the world and fell on Luo Xiu.
The speed of the lightning was beyond description. It seemed that as soon as it appeared in the public's view, it had already fallen on Luo Xiu.
Ka Zizi.
In an instant, Luo Xiu, who was attacked by Lei Shu, became stiff, and his electric arc flashed and made a zizi sound. Then Luo Xiu's body returned to normal, and he was crazy, holding the magic weapon flying sword, and once again he flashed towards Yi Tian. However, his people were still in the middle of the way, but suddenly he was surrounded by electric arc, and Rosio's body fell to the ground uncontrollably, curled up and convulsed.
Lei Mia.
Yi Tian drank softly and waved his hand. The arc disappeared in an instant, but Luo Xiu's body was still convulsing on the ground.
This is Yi Tian's first time to use Thunder Attribute spell after absorbing the power of thunder and lightning in Danjia.
After a try, he is very satisfied. After the power of the attribute of thunder absorbed by climbing the immortal mountain, and the understanding of the attribute of thunder, and the gains from the Dan robbery, Yi Tian has judged that this attribute of Taoism can completely restrain the top monks in the Golden Elixir realm. Even the friars of half-step Yuanying might be able to contain one or two. At this time, the Yuanying deacon of Wanyu League entered the field and removed Luo Xiu from the field. In this case, Luo Xiu has undoubtedly lost.
If Yi Tian has the heart to kill, I'm afraid Luo Xiu has become a dead man.
On the other side, Tan Xiao, who had been smashed 100 feet away, had already slowly climbed up.
Keep fighting or quit by yourself. Yi Tian's eyes flashed and asked. Tan quit.
Tan Xiao hesitated a little, but saw that Luo Xiu, who had been cut out of shape by thunder, had to say this even though Tan Xiao was no longer reconciled. Then he looked up at the sky, looking for his black stick. The black stick was hit by Yi Tian and lost its trace. Up to now, Tan Xiao didn't feel the existence of the black stick. Waiting for a moment, the black stick still did not fall. Tan Xiao, sullen out of the white circle, came to the outside. Up to now, he has been able to confirm that the black stick should have been taken away by a monk hidden in the sky, and the monk who can take away the black stick without being noticed by himself is absolutely the existence he can't afford. It's just a pity that the black stick, no matter how much it is cherished or the feelings between them, is a great loss to Tan Xiao. But it's just something outside. Today's biggest loss is the loss of the position of the Dragon's Gate Saint Sun. Compared with this, the black stick is nothing. Originally thought it would be a great war, but it ended with Yi Tian's two strong moves. Inside and outside the field, a sigh. However, the monks did not turn their eyes to the first day. Where Yi Tian's eyes went, the monks who had formed an alliance kept silent. No one said a word, but their faces were dignified. Some of them looked at Yi Tian's eyes, while others unconsciously lowered their heads. Some of them touched Yi Tian's eyes and turned away. Whether inside or outside, there was silence, and Yi Tian's toughness almost exceeded everyone's expectation. Including Yen Lai, including the Marquis of Lanling who didn't know where he was, including Yi Tian's 9 disciples, as well as Jinji and Yuye, 2 nuns who had a lot of connections with Yi Tian. Most surprised is Qin Luo God and Yi. They all know Yi Tian is very powerful, far more than ordinary friars. However, they never thought that Yi Tian would be so severe. With the strength of one person, he faced many friars who were all higher than his own realm, but he defeated the group of friars and became brilliant. Women are all born with a worship complex in their hearts.
They admire heroes and strong people.
This monk, who has the closest relationship with them, has become the focus of all people in the wilderness spiritual realm, glowing with dazzling light. At this moment, both of them have a strange feeling in their hearts. Looking at Yi Tian's eyes, it is full of uncontrollable light.
The silence didn't last long.
Yi Tian finally took back his eyes and sat down on his knees, ignoring the alliance monks. At this time, the monks seemed to have a tacit understanding that they no longer looked at Yi Tian.
In addition, a big fight started.
It seems that everyone has selectively ignored Yi Tian, and it seems that Yi Tian does not exist at all. The scuffle among the leagues has gradually expanded, but it has always been controlled in a certain area. It seems that Yi Tian has become a forbidden area, and no one has entered beyond 100 feet around him. Yi Tian always sits there quietly and seems indifferent to the scuffle in the field. If he wants to, he can continue to participate in the melee, but it's meaningless.
No war is more frightening than fighting.
In this round, everyone can see that Yi Tian has won ahead of time, which is a shock to people's hearts and a crushing victory. No one of the monks on the scene has dared to have the courage to fight with Yi Tian. The scuffle continued all the time.
For various reasons, some monks withdrew from the war, left the white circle, and the election failed. Some are injured. Some of them have lost confidence.
Some are because they recognize themselves. Dare not how, after this election, even if failed, can learn a lot, even if just know a person is also a huge harvest.
That person is Yi Tian.
Therefore, even if they withdrew from the war, the monks still did not leave. There are fewer and fewer friars on the field, and the crowds of friars around them make light comments from time to time. But in the fierce battle, their focus is Yi Tian, who is meditating quietly. 800 people, 700 people, 600 people. The number of monks in the field is decreasing, and some of them are moved out by the deacon of Yuanyingjing because of their injuries.
This scuffle is more cruel than when Yi Tian took the hand. Even a few monks fell in the field.
When the first dead appeared, monks began to measure their own strength and slowly withdrew from the war. In this competition, Yanlai did not have any restrictions on casualties, that is, casualties were allowed, and life and death depended on their abilities. Such rules are more like jungle rules, cold and cruel, but closer to reality. Although Yi Tian didn't watch the contest directly, his mind always covered the whole contest, and all the details of the contest were sensed by him. Occasionally, for some unknown reason, his brow frowned carelessly, and then calmed down again. Before the last step, no friars will give up this election, especially when Tan Xiao, Luo Xiu and Lu Yu, the three most popular friars, are eliminated by Yi Tian. It seems that those friars who originally had little hope see a rare opportunity, so they fight for the first place. However, this kind of scuffle is not only based on courage, especially after the alliance of monks, it can also make great achievements in cooperation and strategy. Although some monks seem to have good strength, they have not escaped the fate of being eliminated. Some friars seem to have nothing outstanding, but after a scuffle, they still stay in the field at this time. There is no so-called fairness and unfairness, the rest is king, which is the cruelty of the rules.
The winner is the one who can use and master the rules.
From this scuffle, Yi Tian saw a lot of things, also saw through a lot of things. This feeling of watching, for him, is more like an enlightenment. As time went on, there were fewer and fewer monks left on the court. 400 people, 300 people, 200 people. When there were only more than 200 people left on the spot, Yi Tian suddenly got up slowly and went to the melee. At this time, there are only 3 leagues left in the field. Not all the other leagues are eliminated, but the 3 leagues are reformed after many times of splitting.
When an alliance loses a lot of manpower, in order to maintain enough strength, the remaining alliances will negotiate with each other to form a new alliance.
After being broken up again, he will form another alliance with other monks. Up to now, the friars of the 3 leagues did not know that they had experienced several leagues. In short, the ultimate goal is to stay. The friars on the field may be teammates or enemies at any time, but there is only one goal, that is to stay. Only by staying can we have the chance to be elected. With Yi Tian's approach, the scuffle situation suddenly stops, and the 3 leagues retreat slowly with tacit understanding.
No one wants to face Yi Tian first. Facing Yi Tian, there is only one result, that is out. No one knows why Yi Tian is sitting well in the same place. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Finally, Tian opened his mouth. He pointed to a friar and said softly, "You out for why?"
The monk's face changed and he asked in a hurry.
Tian's sentence is almost like a sentence. If Tian is willing, he will do it himself. He believes that no one in the league will help him. Tian is still one of the monks who participated in the election of Jin dynasty. He is qualified to fight at any time. He has not lost the right to fight because he has been meditating with his knees crossed, or because he has mentioned that you won. You are so cruel that you can win without killing people, but you kill people. You have lost the compassion that the leader of Yen Alliance said. Tian said word by word. During that period of time, he observed very clearly that this man could not kill people, but in order to create his own ruthless side and frighten other monks, he chose to kill the channel. No matter how Yenlai looks at it, Tian will never allow him to enter the second competition. That's the justice he wants to maintain. Tian, don't rely on the strong to bully the weak. In the contest, there is no rule not to kill people. I don't violate the rules. Why do you expel me? The friar roared in his heart. He didn't want to reason with Tian. He just listened to the leader of Wanyu League, even the leader Yenlai. He hoped that his voice could attract those people's attention and interfere with Tian's hegemony, the path of the road. It's just, unfortunately, no one has come forward. At this time, Tian gave a cold smile. Well said, there's no rule against killing people in the contest, so it's not against the rules for me to kill you. The friar's face turned pale, and then he turned into a flash of lightning and flew straight out of the field, which ended the election in a hurry. Tian didn't mean to kill all, but pointed to another monk and said. The friar seemed to be aware of something. As soon as his eyes were fixed, he lowered his head and whispered, "I'm out." With that, his feet were on the ground, and he was ejected away. He left here and disappeared in the crowd of monks. Is there anything wrong with this man? Outside, Qin Luo asked the air around him. Because the distance is too far, Qin Luoshan can't see clearly. In fact, monks far away from him are everywhere. The most important thing is that their accomplishments are not high enough. Sun blankly shook a head. He to leaf day drive out this person also be like to fall in the cloud in the fog, don't feel ahead. Jinji next to him took a look at Qin Luoshan, and suddenly said, Sister Luoshan, this man is the most shameless. He chooses nuns to fight against each other, and his moves are obscene. He thinks that no one pays attention in the scuffle, so many monks should have seen it. When I saw it, I wanted to go down and teach him a lesson myself. Damn it, hearing this, Qin Luoshan shouts frost and says with silver teeth clenched. As a result, she appreciates Tian's behavior more. At this time, Tian did not stop. He pointed to a middle-aged friar who was still pretty. You are out. Seeing that he had become the target of Tian, the friar immediately asked, Yi Dao Yu, please give him a reason. Even if I die, I will die. Mo asked himself that he had never done anything out of line. Can't you rely on the strong and bully the weak like this? Tian said coldly, well, I'll tell you a reason. You are opportunistic and cunning. Whenever you encounter an opponent's attack, you always hide behind your partner. Although there is nothing wrong with this, it's also normal to protect your life in the scuffle, but this is the selection of the Dragon's Gate Saint Son. The people in the great wilderness spirit realm don't need you to be such a saint son. Is this reason enough? Yi Dao Yu, this is a strategy. In order to achieve the ultimate goal, there is no need to blindly make unnecessary sacrifices. The most important thing is to achieve the goal. For example, there is no need to sacrifice too many Terran friars for the prosperity and revitalization of the Terran. What we need to do is to accomplish this with the least violence and blood. Do you think so? Tian was almost laughed by this guy. He did such a shameless thing. He even said it with such high sounding. You should be a lobbyist. Well, your goal is to be a son, my goal is to have no cavities. Let's talk by strength. Let Yi personally send you out. With a cold smile, Tian walked to the friar. The friar's face changed color again. He quickly stepped back and threw an object at Tian. Yi Dao Yu, in this storage bag is 1,000 fairy jade,
all my wealth. If you don't do something to him, these are all yours. Tian flicks his fingers and bounces the storage bag back to the friar.
He almost laughs again. It's really a talent.
He bribes himself in front of so many friars.
His face is not so big.
The monk took the storage bag, bit his lips, and then his face returned to normal.
He hugged Tian and said, "Thank you for your reward. Today we are destined to have a drink with Yi Dao Yu. My name is Mo Xiaoyu. Today we are friends too."
Don't.
Yi Dao Yu, don't get angry. I'll leave now, we are friends, right? Remember. My name is Mo Xiaoyu. While talking, the friar saw Yi Tian's bad complexion coming to him with a big stride.
He flew out of the white circle in a hurry and cried as he walked. This led to a burst of laughter. Yi Tian was also made to smile bitterly for a while, but he did admit that he was a crooked talent with strong adaptability.
Maybe such a talent is easier to survive in the cruel world of cultivation. I really don't know how he got the place.
It seems that he still has a certain way to go.
After expelling Mo Xiaoyu, Yi Tian doesn't have any follow-up actions.
He turns around and leaves the battlefield, returns to his previous position and continues to meditate. On the other hand, the scuffle started again, and it was a bit more fierce than before. In the sky, since Yi Tian went to the battlefield again, Yanlai watched coldly and witnessed the whole process of Yi Tian expelling the three monks. Although the expression on the face has always been calm, but a close look at it is so deep that it seems to be able to see through all the eyes of the brilliant flash. He is very satisfied with what Yi Tian has done. Originally, Yi Tian was only a friar who participated in Longmen Xingzi, but he was such an elector. First of all, he used his strong strength to frighten the whole audience and keep all the electors in silence. It is such an elector of Jin Dynasty who, as a law enforcer, cleans up the ranks of the electors of Jin Dynasty and maintains the prestige of the electors of Jin Dynasty.
This is far beyond Yan Lai's expectation.
At this time, the more he looks at Yi Tian, the more he feels like it, and he finally doesn't choose the wrong person. The scuffle in the white circle, because Yi Tian expelled 3 friars before, and then many friars also paid special attention to it, most of them were controlled and deterred. Although the scene was fierce, none of the monks died in the scuffle. As time went by, the number of monks in the field gradually decreased. At a certain moment, when a monk was eliminated, a deacon of Yuanyingjing suddenly yelled, "Stop, the first contest is over.
Please get the certificate card for the winner." Yi Tian slowly gets up.
At this time, there are just 100 monks left in the field, including himself. Those monks who won finally let out a long breath, with excited smile on their faces.
The first scene is finally over.
Although Yi Tian is a powerful presence, no one can defeat him. There are 3 places for this time.
In addition to the Leaf Day has been a firm one, there are 2 can go to fight.
After receiving the certificate card, the winning monk immediately sat on the ground with his knees crossed and began to adjust his breath to restore his mana. Outside, Nieba and other disciples gathered around the incarnation monk who set up the gambling game to get the deserved xianyu. 9 disciples, no one bet 10,000 xianyu, odds 1 to 10, such a high odds let them immediately become rich. Even if he paid 900,000 yuan for xianyu, the monk of Washingjing still made a lot of money, because after Yi Tian's 9 disciples came out, all the rest of the monks lost. A large number of people add up to a large number of fairy jade. Yi Tian ignored these, and sat on the ground, kneeling and meditating, but he was guessing about the next contest. More than an hour later, Yan Lai, the leader of the alliance, reappeared. All the candidates including Yi Tian got up to greet him. Yan Lai glanced at each winner one by one, and then began to speak. "The first match is over. First of all, congratulations to all the monks who won the second match. The Terran friars have to face the attack of the orcs, the underworld, and the demons, so our enemies are 3 different races.
The second round of competition is about the orcs. Later, a special cage will be provided. The cage has 100 entrances. After entering the entrance, there are designated areas, in which there are 5 third-order top monsters. If the candidate of Jin Dynasty can kill all the 5 monsters, he will win. In addition, there is a reward area behind each designated area, in which there are 100 level 4 monsters. You can open the prohibition from any entrance to enter the reward area.
You can get 100,000 Xianyu rewards for killing a level 4 monster. These rewards will be included in the total score of the competition. After determining the 3 Longmen Saints, you can get Xianyu rewards by virtue of each place. The first, the second and the third are arranged. Different levels of Dragon's Gate Saints enjoy different resources. There is a huge gap between the first Dragon's Gate Saints and the second and third Dragon's Gate Saints, far more than the sum of the second and third Dragon's Gate Saints. But I have to point out that no matter in the designated area or the reward area, the monsters inside are not so easy to deal with, especially in the reward area. They are all level 4 peak monsters. If you don't have enough strength and means to protect your life, don't go in and try it easily. In this competition, the friars fought by themselves. Even if there was danger, no one would go to the rescue. So whether you will participate in this competition, or whether you will enter the reward area after passing the competition, please consider for yourself. Seeing that he said so seriously, almost all the Longmen border monks who participated in the election of Jin Dynasty were still eager to try, so Yanlai didn't say more. With a gesture, he waved to the broad area of the wilderness below, and a huge object fell down, occupying a large area. This huge thing immediately attracted many eyes. Tian also looked at it, but saw that it was a huge cage, covering an area of 6 or 7 li.
I don't know what material the cage is made of. The bars on the cage are as thick as the pillars in the main hall. They look very strong. In the middle of the cage is a circular area, in which there are many kinds of ferocious beasts. There are many entrances in the cage, which are connected with the middle circular area. The middle area of the cage fish is generally thick and thin. Each entrance is 100 meters long and 45 meters wide, with 5 monsters in it. The beasts in the circular area roar and pounce, trying to rush out through the entrance, but they are blocked by the cage bars and the prohibitions placed on them, so they can't rush into the entrance. Seeing such a cage, Tian immediately understood what Yanlai had said before. There are 100 entrances. If every successful monk continues to participate in the competition, he can enter through the entrance and kill 5 monsters in the entrance section, even if he passes the competition. If you still want to get Xianyu, the circular area in the middle is the reward area. You can go in and have a try. Tian automatically ignores the 5 monsters at the entrance, because his breath is weak. He is only a friar at the top of the 3rd level, which is equivalent to the peak of the Longmen realm of the Terran friars. Tian doesn't pay attention to the monsters in this realm. He only focused on the 100 monsters in the reward area. Although those monsters are strong and powerful, they are all at the top of the 4th level, which is equivalent to the level of the friars in the Golden Elixir realm of the human race. Tian regarded it as the main battlefield here. 100 4th order monsters can get 100,000 fairy jade for killing one. In Tian's eyes, these monsters are not monsters anymore, but white fairy jade with rich aura. This is not only a question of giving points, but also a question of giving money. Tian is in a great mood. If he kills all these monsters, he can get tens of millions of fairy jade, which is a great wealth. At this time, Yanlai continued, the 5 monsters at each entrance are not the same, but they have the same strength. For the sake of fairness, each monk participating in the Jin election will draw lots to decide which entrance to enter the cage. We naturally have no opinion on such a rule. Even if we completely adopt the same kind of monsters, and they are in the same realm, because of different physical conditions, the combat effectiveness of monsters may not be exactly the same. And it must be very difficult to find the same realm and the same kind of monster. Now it seems that Alliance leader Yan spent some time on this competition. After all, he was just an Alliance leader and went all over the mountains to catch monsters. I think the scene was quite interesting. With his voice, a friar came with a good card and marked out at each entrance. Then, one by one, the 100 selected friars extracted the entrance number. Tian randomly took out a number sign and opened it to have a look. It was the 26th. With a glance, we have found the location of entrance 20. The 5 monsters held inside are 2 demon bears, 2 demon tigers and a giant ape. At the entrance section, he kept hitting the cage and roaring. It looked very fierce and frightening. Yi Tian just sweeps it in a hurry, so he doesn't continue to pay attention to it. He only looks at his entrance position, and doesn't care about what monster he's holding. But the other friars are obviously different. The friars who draw the number sign all come to the entrance at the first time and carefully observe the monsters inside. Even some friars have begun to think about the tactics and means to be adopted after entering the entrance section. When all the friars finished drawing the number, Yanlai spoke again and announced the beginning of the contest. Some friars entered the entrance for the first time and began to fight with monsters. But some of the friars were at the entrance, looking at the monsters in the entrance and thinking, a little hesitant. In a word, the monks of Jinxian who can reach this stage are not ordinary monks in Longmen realm. Some of them have the strength to fight with the monks in Jindan realm. But most of them are just the best monks in the same realm. The 5 monsters at the top of the 3rd level are equivalent to the 5 monks at the top of the Longmen realm. There is a certain risk in entering them. Among them, these friars are clear. Yi Tian is not in a hurry to enter the cage, but stands quietly waiting outside. In fact, there is nothing to wait for. He is just worried that once he enters the cage, he will kill those monsters in a flash, which will cause a misunderstanding to other friars, thinking that these monsters are easy to kill. Such a wrong judgment, rashly into the cage, will bring unnecessary danger. After some deliberation, one after another monks resolutely opened the door of the cage and went in, but some monks finally gave up the test and left the place. Such friars are basically after some deduction, they can't defeat these 5-level monsters. Once they go in, they must be injured or fall, and there is no chance of winning. There were 8 monks who gave up the competition, but the remaining 92 entered the cage. But soon a monk was injured in the cage. When he was in danger, he opened the cage and escaped from it. Finally, he did not die under the grasp of the beast. This situation is not many more monks are fighting with the monster inside. The scene is extremely fierce, exciting. Yi Tian looked at it casually, then opened the entrance of the cage and entered it. Ouch! 2 demon tigers rush at him in a flash. The sharp hook cuts through the air and grabs at his chest. Yi Tian waves his right fist to kill the 2 demon tigers 2 times in a row. Then 2 more punches killed the fierce demon bear. There is only 1 giant ape left in the designated area of the entrance section. Seeing that his companion was killed by Yi Tian in a moment, the giant ape became extremely scared, with a ferocious expression. The ape hair on his body stood upright, and his mouth made a creaking sound. He kept retreating. Yi Tian slowly steps towards the great ape, with a cold light in his eyes, ready to move at any time. Who knows, after the giant ape retreated to the innermost part of the designated area step by step, he suddenly knelt down to Yi Tian like a human, and his mouth was still squeaky and he kept bowing to Yi Tian. Yi Tian understood that the ape wanted to spare his life, and he was willing to recognize Yi Tian as the Lord and become Yi Tian's pet. However, because Yan Lai made it clear that he needed to kill all the 5 monsters before he could pass the competition, Yi Tian didn't get excited. Inspired by this, he looked at the reward area behind the giant ape, where there were hundreds of 4th-order top monsters. There were no too many restrictions on their life and death. They belonged to the reward for the selected monks of Jin dynasty. Moreover, the realm was higher and stronger than the giant ape. It seemed that it would be more useful for him to subdue them. Thinking about this, Yi Tian showed a few smiles on his lips and came to the great ape and clapped his hand. The great ape suddenly howled, and the sharp ape claw suddenly came to Yi Tian's right palm. The dying blow and the madness was really shocking, but Yi Tian didn't care about the great ape's counterattack. The right palm was castrated. He patted the great ape's claw open and fell on his head. The great ape just snorted, then his head broke and fell to one side. The whole process was too simple. With his palms folded, Yi Tianlu glanced at the other monks of the Jin dynasty. He found that he was the first one to kill 5 monsters. Some of the other monks had been injured and quit the Jin dynasty, while others were still fighting fiercely with monsters. However, several friars have attracted Yi Tian's attention. These friars have killed 4 monsters and are dealing with the last one. Judging from the actions of both sides, Yi Tian judges that there should be no problem in killing the last one. It's just a matter of time. After a brief look, Yi Tian stands in front of the gate between the designated areas. As long as you open the above prohibition, you can enter the reward area by pushing the door. There are hundreds of monsters at the top of the 4th level.
Each time you kill one, you can get a reward of 100,000 Xianyu. Yi Tian stood there, just looking, but no next move, neither into the reward area, no sign of retreat, seems to be standing there thinking about something. He was the first one to kill all 5 monsters, which did not cause too much reaction from the onlookers. It seems that this result is natural.
For Yi Tian, it should be so. There is no suspense.
But for he did not enter the reward area, many monks are quietly talking, guessing whether Yi Tian will stop. After all, for a monk in Longmen realm, even if there is only one 4th level monster, it is also a very dangerous and terrifying opponent, so we should think twice about it.
Do you think Master will enter the reward area? Among the crowd, Nieba asked other younger martial brothers and sisters.
Needless to say, Master will definitely go in. If you kill a monster, you can get a reward of 100,000 Xianyu. Moreover, you have to rank the holy sons of Longmen according to the number of Xianyu.
Master will not miss this opportunity.
Hua Ziqing has a reasonable analysis.
But why doesn't Master go in? What is he hesitating about? Nieba asked with some doubts.
Now Yi Tian is a myth in his heart. He feels that Yi Tian seems to be omnipotent and nothing can be hard to hold him. This is blind worship. Even when he is faced with 100 top 4 monsters, he doesn't think for the first time whether Shifu can beat those monsters and whether it will be dangerous for Shifu to enter the reward area. None of this is in his mind. It can even be said that these are not to worry about, because that is the master.
Yi Tian. He only considered other reasons why the master did not enter the reward area.
However, his words attracted a sneer. It was another monk not far away from him, the peak cultivation of Jindan realm. The man sneered coldly and said, although Dao's master is powerful, he has to live or die to enter the reward area.
What is he hesitating about?
Let me tell Dao that he is hesitating to go in and die. Nieba was displeased when he heard the words. He gave each other a cold look. Although the monk was a little higher than himself, he didn't say well, it's just a frog in the bottom of the well.
Taoist friends still don't know much about my master.
However, the monk continued to say, why do you have to be so angry?
I'm just talking about the matter. I should say that your master won't be the son of Longmen.
I also admire this friar Yi Tian. If he can do so at the age of only 20, his future achievements will be limitless. But that's the future, not the present. Now, in the face of 104 level top monsters, his cultivation is still a little worse.
Don't say you're a master. Even if you're a master, even if you reach the peak of the golden elixir realm and face 100 fierce monsters that can compete with you, you won't go in and die without authorization.
Haha, Taoist friends, please see, what I said is right and wrong.
Your master has chosen not to enter the reward area.
With the monk's voice, Nieba saw that, indeed, as he said, after looking at the reward area for a moment, Yi Tian turned to leave and walked along the path of the designated area to the entrance of the cage.
For a time, he only felt some inexplicable, don't know what Yi Tian is doing? Do you really dare not enter the reward area?
Alas, it's a pity that I originally wanted to see the scene of Yi Tian fighting against the animals, but now I can't see it.
Yi Tian chose to give up and enter the reward area. Someone nearby sighed softly. It's nothing.
After all, the monsters in the reward area are very terrible. Yi Tian has killed 5 monsters in the designated area, so he has won the game. Although the Xianyu reward is attractive, there's no need to fight with his life.
Someone took the conversation, and it seemed to pierce what Yi Tianxin thought.
Yes, it's a clear choice. In fact, it's useless for 1U League to set up such a reward area. Just think about 100 monsters at the top of the 4th level.
Which monk in Longmen realm dares to enter the herd, even Yi Tian?
Before that, I continued to express my feelings. Such comments are everywhere around, frequently issued, almost all talking about Yi Tian. But unexpectedly, Yi Tian didn't get out of the cage, but opened the door of the cage and asked Yan Lai in a loud voice, if you don't kill the monsters in the reward area, but catch them alive, is the reward effective? If captured alive, each monster will be rewarded 120,000 yuan, which will also be recorded in the total amount of the reward as the basis for ranking the Dragon's Gate Saint Sun. In the sky, Yanlai was stunned, and then the sound spread all over the audience. The onlookers were stunned. All friars know that it is extremely difficult to kill a fourth-order monster with Long Mengmeng Friar, but it is much more difficult to capture a fourth-order peak monster alive than to kill it, especially among the 100 monsters. It is basically impossible to catch them alive.
Yi Tian, do you want to increase your difficulty? Is he crazy to think that he is the old monster of Yuanying? Many people look at Yi Tian in the cage and show an inexplicable expression. Master is powerful. Master is domineering.
Only a few of Yi Tian's disciples can't help cheering when they hear Yi Tian's question. It seems that Yi Tian is omnipotent in their heart. Since they ask, it means that they are absolutely sure that they can capture the top 4 monsters alive. After all, to capture one is 20,000 more than to kill one. Look, I thought Yi Naivete was going to go in and catch the monster alive. He hesitated again. He should just ask. After asking Yanlai, Yi Tian doesn't directly open the ban to enter the reward area, but stands in front of the cage door between the designated area and the reward area, as if thinking about something. Such a situation let some people slightly disappointed once again began to talk. The rest of the monks who participated in the selection of Jin Dynasty also gradually got results at this time. Some of them had extraordinary strength, killed 5 monsters in the designated area, and then left the cage. These monks who have won this competition have already got the place to enter the next competition. No one is willing to take the risk to fight with 100 monsters, so they all give up the temptation of the reward area. There are also some friars because of their own strength is not strong, not only failed to kill 5 monsters through the contest, but injured in the hands of monsters. Such friars are not a few. 6 monks even fell into the cage because they didn't escape in time. Because of the death of these 6 friars, other friars didn't fight with those monsters, otherwise more people would fall into them. Time goes by bit. When the last monk with scars killed the 5th monster in the designated area, with a long cry, he excitedly went out of the cage and went outside to heal. Except Yi Tian, who was still in the cage, there was no other monk in the cage. All eyes finally fall on Yi Tian. At this time, Yi Tian finally made a gesture and pressed his palm on the forbidden system. With a bright light, the door made of thick cage bars was opened. The movement on this side immediately attracted the attention of those monsters. Before the blink of an eye, many monsters rushed over. A timid nun even covered her eyes with her hand. They could almost imagine what would happen next. However, the expected voice finally did not appear. There was no heartbreaking cry. There was no surprise voice of the human race, there was no fierce fight. Some of them are just the light voice of some friars. They just rise and fall. The nun slowly moved away her fingers and bravely looked at the cage. She was stunned by the scene in front of her. There are only 100 monsters in today's cage, but Yi Tian's shadow is not seen anymore. What about Yi Tian? Was it eaten? The lovely-looking nun asked a friar in the golden elixir. The monk shook his head in wry smile. You ask me, who do I ask? Since the cage was opened, Yi Tian has disappeared. Bang! At this time, the cage door leading to a certain entrance in the reward area suddenly opened, and many beasts roared and rushed there again. Yes, my guess is right. Yi Tian is invisible. I can't find him. The monk of the golden elixir realm suddenly murmured, with a look of great enlightenment. Voice did not fall, leading to another designated area of the cage also suddenly inexplicably opened, still did not see any shadow. It's like the cages open automatically. Another group of monsters in the reward area rushed to the open cage door and entered the designated area with 5 monsters' bodies. Then he drove straight to the last door leading to the cage and kept crashing, trying to open the door and escape from the cage. However, how strong the cage is. Although these monsters have reached the 4th peak, they still fail to open the gate with all their strength. If you break open and rush out, you will be able to escape from the cage of a new world. Many monsters gradually became crazy and kept pounding madly. The battle of the trapped beast has shaken through a vast expanse of wilderness. Bang! Bang! The sound of the cage being opened came out one after another. Every time the sound sounded, a group of monsters rushed past and repeated the scenes of other cages being opened.
Constantly pounding the last cage door, never die posture.
In the reward area, more and more beast doors are opened, and every time they are opened, some beasts rush in. After a while, there are fewer and fewer beasts in the reward area, and more designated areas have the shadow of beasts. The sound of hitting the cage door and the roaring sound of beasts come from different entrance sections, which is deafening.
Bang!
Tian, who uses both Feng Dan and Insha at the same time, opens a cage door again. His body is like a wisp of wind, and he floats away quietly.
The monster who hears the sound doesn't even notice his whereabouts.
He opened many animal doors one after another, and the monsters that were originally in the reward area were gradually dispersed to each designated area, and the reward area with dense monsters suddenly became empty. The remaining cages were still gradually opened, and monsters poured in. It turns out that Ji Daoyu is ready to attack them separately, but even if he is not besieged, he will not be able to capture them all his life. After all, it is a top 4 monster. Even if he faces one alone, it will be very dangerous. Even if he wins, it will cost a lot of mana. I guess there is no more mana to fight with the second one. Yi Daoyu definitely wants to choose the weakest one. If you can capture one alive, you can get 120,000 Xianyu, and you can also rank the Dragon's Gate Saint Sun with the obtained Xianyu. A few monks of Jin Dynasty who came out of the animal cage came to a place and talked in a low voice.
The young monk who spoke had successfully killed 5 monsters and could successfully enter the next contest.
Therefore, there was a possibility that the Emperor of Jin Dynasty could succeed in selecting the Saint Sun. On the contrary, he was more interested in the ranking of the Saint Sun of Longmen.
This should be a good choice. I think Yi Daoyu's cultivation should be able to successfully kill 1 or more monsters, or even more than 10.
After all, with Yi Daoyu's accomplishments and strength, plus his uncanny secret breathing skill, if you start rashly, the monster will be too defenseless.
I'm afraid it's very difficult to capture any monster alive. Not to mention a monk in Longmen realm, I'm afraid he's a monk at the top of Jindan realm. It's hard to catch monsters in the same realm alive.
One of the friars beside said so. What Brother Su said is basically the same as what I thought. Yi Daoyu is really admirable, but the gap between the two realms can't be ignored. In my opinion, I'm afraid Yi Daoyu will adopt the strategy of killing after he finds that he can't capture any monster alive. If he is not greedy for success, rash, steady, and able to keep injury-free, this election of Longmen Xingzi can be celebrated ahead of time, and he is also likely to be the number 1 Longmen Xingzi. But if you get hurt, it's hard to say another friar also took part in the discussion. Just as everyone was talking about it, the cage doors of the designated areas connected with the reward area were still being opened one after another. More and more cage doors were opened. Finally, Yi Tian opened all the cage doors. Although not every cage opened is filled with monsters, at least 70% of the cages have been filled with monsters, including the remaining third-order monsters in the cages entered by some monks who failed in the Jin dynasty, resulting in different numbers of monsters in each designated area. This kind of situation was expected by Yi Tian. At this time, he was in a certain place in the cage and knew the situation in the cage like his heart. Bang bang. Then, the cage that had been opened suddenly and indirectly closed, and once the prohibition was restarted, the monster that entered the designated area was in it. Seeing this situation, those monsters separated in different designated areas were furious and roared incessantly, with a terrible momentum. Yi Tian didn't pay attention to the monsters until all the cages were closed again. At a certain moment, he suddenly drifted away to a designated area. Of course, at this time, he was under the effect of crypto, and no one could see his whereabouts. At the moment of entering the designated area, the cage door was slammed closed by him, a magic force hit on it, and the closed cage door was forbidden to open again. Ouch! Hearing the sound, the only tiger in it suddenly turns and pounces on this side. At the same time, there are more than a dozen monsters in the reward area, but they bump into the cage door and are forbidden to enter the designated area. When the monster reaches a certain level of cultivation, he will open his mind. When the tiger hears the sound of the cage door closing, he already knows that a monk is hiding. Although no one was seen, he opened his sharp claws and took photos of the void in front of the cage door. After 2 tiger claws were all lost, a tail like an iron bar gave out a strong sound of breaking the air and swept behind, but it still had no effect. Under the fury of the tiger beast, it opened the tiger's mouth again and roared deafening. Then, fireballs shot out of the tiger's mouth and shot around. Poof! 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 It seems that the fireball is very powerful. Red light is shining in groups, breaking through the void and hitting the forbidden cage. It is rebounded back, and the designated area is ablaze. The tiger itself didn't seem to be afraid of the fire. With a push of its claws, it soared up in the air and tried to find the invisible Tian in this way. However, after more than a dozen back and forth, there was still no discovery. The tiger breath gradually calmed down. Instead of continuing to launch a blind attack, he squatted in a corner of the designated area, with fierce eyes wandering around. All of a sudden, the tiger beast that had been gradually recovered suddenly roared again and stood up, but there was no next step. As you can see, in the designated area where the flames are burning, the fire suddenly becomes larger, but only for a moment. The fire seems to be suppressed in general, but it begins to shrink gradually. But it's not that the original flaming flames are shrinking by themselves. The tiger beast suddenly finds that the fireballs it spits out are being quickly swallowed by another group of flames. But in a very short period of time, the flame it vomited was swallowed up by another strange flame, which seemed to be full of momentum and turned into a fire net to cover itself. Moreover, this strange flame seems to be hotter than the flame it spits out. It's extremely terrifying. It seems to be able to burn everything in the world, emitting terrifying power. The tiger beast was shocked. At this time, the retreat was broken and he could not return to the reward area. Suddenly, his whole body burst out, and he was wrapped in a layer of flames. Then he dashed forward in an attempt to break through the siege of the fire net. But who knows, at the moment when the tiger leaped up, the fire net suddenly became white, and the original red and black fire suddenly changed color, giving off a dazzling white light. Tian's hidden samadhi fire suddenly broke out and merged into the terrible fire net, trapping the tiger beast in it. Surrender. Or die. Tian put away the hidden killing technique and appeared outside the fire net in front of the tiger beast. Although samadhi's true fire in the net of fire is rare, under Tian's urging, the power it can exert is not what the tiger beast at the top of the 4th level can resist. The tiger beast is very clear about the situation in front of him. If he rushes to the fire net rashly, he will be wrapped in the fire net and burned to ashes. I know you can understand me. If you don't surrender, go to die now. Tian's face is cold. With this sentence, his gesture moves, and the breath of the fire net is more blazing. Nuada's fire net is slowly shrinking, getting closer and closer to the huge tiger body. Ouch! At a certain moment, the threat of life and death on the tiger's face, under the constant contraction of the fire net, suddenly collapsed. With a wail in his mouth, his front paws fell to the ground, and his whole body shrank into a ball, which showed his surrender. Let go of your mind. When Tian saw this, he drank with no expression on his face. He controlled the fire net from shrinking and walked slowly to the trembling tiger. Hear Tian's voice, that tiger beast again Wu several, Fu is on the ground to nod frequently. Tian releases his mind, enters into the sea of tiger and beast knowledge, and begins to lay a ban on it. He starts to let the tiger and beast recognize their master. Tigers and beasts, like the spirit insects such as clematis, are not allowed to be banned by any friar. If you want to subdue a spirit beast and complete the soul recognition of the Lord, the first point is that the soul is stronger than the place. As long as you mark the soul, even if the spirit beast grows faster and faster than the master, because of the balance of the soul mark, then the spirit beast still dares to obey the master. Otherwise, an idea of the master can be set out, and the demons and beasts will be destroyed. However, it's not enough just that the divine idea is stronger than the monster. If the monster doesn't let go of the sea and let the master lay the brand of the divine idea and set up the prohibition of the divine idea, then no matter how powerful the monk's divine idea is, it can destroy the monster sea at most, and still can't become the real master of the monster. Because there is no direct way to control the monster. If the monster is transformed into human form, it means that the intelligence has been opened to a certain extent,
almost close to human beings. At that time, it can't control the monster absolutely even if it only has the brand of divine thoughts. In that case, it doesn't rule out the possibility that the monster will bite back. Because of the improvement of intelligence, monsters can attack their masters secretly to eliminate the prohibition from the root.
In this case, they need to use blood oath to restrain them. Of course, because the spirit of the brand, the beast, and the owner of the same mind, if the beast once had two hearts, the owner will be the first time to detect. The key is the beast shot fast enough. Of course, the monster with low intelligence is not as fast as the master's idea, but the monster with high intelligence has a chance to reverse success and regain freedom. This demon tiger, which was controlled by Tian with his own life spirit fire, did not dare to make any changes. He could only let Tian's mind do whatever he wanted in his sea of knowledge. Otherwise, Tian an idea, the fire net will close, the monster will surely die. The jade slips obtained from the Valley of Death have a very mysterious method of imprinting divine thoughts. Tian has used them on the clematis and many spirit insects for many times, and he is already familiar with them. As a result, it is very fast to make the mark of divine thoughts on this demon tiger. After several tens of breath, Tian's eyes suddenly flash, and the fire net which was cremated by the spirit of life suddenly closes, and enters Tian's elixir field, and no trace can be seen anymore. And that demon tiger, whether it is to go first, wild and ferocious, and even fear-trembling expression no longer exists. The only emotion left is obedience. At this time, it has put away all the ferocity, like a submissive cat, wagging its tail, rubbing its head against Tian's tail, making a low cry, a flattering look. In such a scene, the onlookers outside the cage were shocked. There was silence all around, and even the sound of talking had disappeared. No one thought that Tian could easily capture the demon tiger in such a short time. This is not to mention, and Tian can quickly subdue the beast with his cultivation in Longmen realm, which is the fourth peak of the demon tiger sea. This is a completely subversive thing. How could a monk in the late period of Longmen realm make the mark of divine thoughts in the sea of four-level monsters? Even if the demon tiger let go of the sea, it is totally impossible. It is impossible for a monk in Longmen to have such a powerful idea. It's impossible to accept the fourth-level monster. This has never happened in the great wilderness. Tian's idea is so powerful that everyone's expression is different when they look at the cage. Tian doesn't care what others think. After accepting the tiger, his body suddenly flashes and disappears from the original place again. Then, the cage door connected with the reward area opens without warning, and the tiger roars and rushes in. In the cage, peace was soon restored. But the calm lasted only a short time. With the sudden closure of the cage door in another designated area, there came the continuous roar of a demon bear. The demon bear is half a foot long, majestic and powerful. At this time, as if he felt great danger, the hard hair of the bear was upright, and a pair of fierce eyes were looking for something. All the onlookers guessed that Tian must be hiding in the designated area, waiting for an opportunity to start. However, the demon bear is much thicker than the demon tiger. I'm afraid the fire before Tian may not be able to shake the demon bear. As for the outcome, we are all waiting to see, and few people talk about it. Sure enough, at a certain moment, Tian finally started. Or the old trick again, a terrible fire net appeared out of thin air, to the huge demon bear cover. The demon bear's body gave off a kind of yellow light, and then burst out. The whole body stood up, just like human beings, and its claws shot to the fire net. Bear claws are very thick. There is a thick cocoon on the meat pad. The claw is very sharp. It's like a hook. As soon as it touches the fire net roars. The fire starts and the demon bear is covered in it. If we say that in the plains, forests, mountains, these open areas, when the demon bear is on guard, it may be much more difficult for this fire net to cover the demon bear. However, in the designated area of the cage, the space is narrow, and the demon bear has little room to move. No matter how fast it moves and how fast it attacks, it can't escape the fire net that almost covers the designated area. The fire net covers the bear, and the terrible flame suddenly burns the bear's long hair. The demon bear's body is burned in fierce. He suddenly wants to break through the fire net, but he can't imagine that the fire net is with him.
No matter where the demon bear rushes, he will never leave his side. But this demon bear can't even find Tian anywhere. Fierce pain, rage. Demon bears roar repeatedly, attracting many monsters to watch in the reward area. Seeing this situation, many monsters were angry, frightened, shuddered and supported.
At that time, the roar of monsters broke out continuously, and all kinds of terrible sounds shook the world.
Die, or surrender.
In the roar of thunder, Tian's voice came out clearly. Before the bear demon body has been burning, roaring wildly in the designated area, ferocious. Hear Tian's voice, bear demon want to lock Tian's position, but feel Tian's voice is ethereal, as if there are his voice in all directions, there is no way to lock. At a certain moment, the black bear roared again and crawled to the ground to show his submission to Tian.
Tian's gesture moves.
The fire net opens out in a flash and releases the demon bear, but it's still a long way away, enveloping the demon bear. Then, Tian's cold air covered the demon bear and put out the fire. Although the skin of the demon bear is thick and the flesh is thick, after the fire just now, in addition to the hard hair of the bear was burned to ashes, even the bare skin on the body is also scarred and miserable.
Let go of your mind.
Tian's mind is released and touches the demon bear's sea of knowledge.
However, he finds that the demon bear's sea of knowledge is closed and does not cooperate with himself.
The cold light bursts out in Tian's eyes, and the fire net is gradually tightened again. The rebellious demon bear showed fear in his eyes, and his breath withered down. He had to open up the sea of knowledge according to Tian's words, and let Tian imprint his soul. A moment later, Tian stopped and looked at the demon bear. At this time, the demon bear has completely converged its ferocity, just like the demon tiger before, shaking his head to Tian with all his burns.
But Tian didn't pay attention to the beast, and his figure disappeared again.
Then another cage door in the designated area where a demon ape was trapped was opened again, and then the prohibition was activated and closed again. Although this demon ape looks fierce, it knows the current affairs very well. Maybe it's because it's scared that Tian didn't waste any energy to subdue the ape when he saw that the demon bear was so badly injured. Tian so quickly gathered the 3-4-peak demon apes into his spiritual pet, which made the monks around look at each other and feel speechless for a moment.
Obviously, it's a competition full of life-threatening. How could it be like giving Tian a big chance? Tian didn't pay attention to any situation outside in the cage.
He was just concentrating on his own business, as if he was completely isolated from the outside world. Next, he repeatedly opened the cage door that he had closed before, and entered a designated area to subdue the monsters trapped in it. After the first battle of Burning Demon Bear, it had a powerful deterrent effect on those monsters, and then the surrender became simple. All kinds of 4-peak monsters were awed by him, so they were branded as gods and accepted as spiritual favors.
Without spending too much time, Tian has already subdued more than a dozen 4th-order monsters, and is still moving. What does Tian want to do? Will all the 100 monsters be subdued?
Some of the monks around seemed to see something and uttered an incredible exclamation.
It looks like I have a big appetite. There is only one monster in one area.
Fortunately, those areas with 2 or 3 or even more monsters are not so easy to deal with. Another person sends out a light smile, very not optimistic about Tian's idea. If you can really subdue 100 monsters and add 100 monsters of the 4th level peak, Tian's strength will not only increase sharply, but also get 12 million fairy jade.
It's a sudden fortune. A failed monk who took part in the election of Jin Dynasty calculated the account bitterly. Haha, that's someone else's ability. If you have enough strength, you can have a try.
All opportunities are equal, and all rules are fair.
It depends only on one's ability. You only see the benefits that others get.
Why can't you see them practice hard? Next to him, a monk of Jindan Kingdom said with a faint smile. The monk of Longmen Jing, who failed in the election of Jin Dynasty, said with a bitter smile, Elder, the younger generation is 29 years old.
They practice hard every day. Their family is okay. They don't have to do chores or complete tasks.
They spend almost all their time practicing and their resources are okay.
But the gap is still so big.
It's not because they are not diligent.
It can only be said that Yi Tian is too abnormal. Although I'm a monk in the Golden Elixir realm, I think I'm not Yi Tian's opponent. So you don't have to belittle yourself. Yi Tian, a genius like this, has never appeared in the great wilderness. It can't be compared with it, because there is no comparability at all. Life is a practice. It's self-cultivation, it's mood cultivation, it's not comparison with people, otherwise it's phase cultivation. The monk in the Golden Elixir realm stared at a designated area and said that there was a fight, but he could not see Yi Tian's figure in his sight. He was obviously hiding. The monk who failed in the Jin election was silent for a moment. He shook his head and said nothing. His eyes were fixed on the cage. He looked even more nervous than Yi Tian. It's supposed to be that after the trapped monster is subdued, we can stop it. Another friar nearby guessed, after all, even Yi Tian's mana is limited, and no matter how powerful his mind is, it's impossible to continuously imprint his mind on 100 monsters. It's almost impossible. Not necessarily. You see Yi Tian. The friar of Jindan Kingdom suddenly made a sound and pointed to the cage. Although they talked about it, their eyes still stayed in the cage. At this time, they had noticed that the last beast under siege had been subdued by Yi Tian, and the cage door of the designated area had been opened. Then, another cage door of the designated area where 2 fourth-order peak monsters were trapped opened with a bang, and the 2 monsters inside rushed out, but one of them entered the reward area without any obstacles, and the other beat back to the designated area than Yi Tian, and then the cage door closed and the prohibition reopened. Only this monster is left in the designated area. The next thing is simple. Yi Tian has repeated it many times. It's too simple to subdue this monster without the interference of other monsters. Yi Daoyou's strength is really far beyond our imagination. When many monsters are together, he's also broken, and each one is broken. I'm afraid that all the monsters in the cage will become his bag. The monks who failed in the election of Jin Dynasty sighed, and their voice was unspeakable loneliness. The others didn't say anything, but they all nodded in silence. By now, they have agreed with this person. It's not easy to break each one, but for Yi Tian, it's just a matter of blocking and releasing, but the premise is that Yi Tian is strong enough. In the following period of time, more and more monsters were subdued by Yi Tian, gradually surpassing half of them. Yi Tian's tactics are too flexible. Can he think of such moves? At this time, a monk looked at what was happening in the cage and couldn't help sighing. Because after Yi Tian subdued more than half of the monsters, he no longer fought alone, but drove more than half of the monsters to encircle the remaining monsters, which were also defeated by each other, but such momentum made the remaining monsters even less rebellious. The capture of monsters into the city is greatly accelerated, and Yi Tian is able to retain enough divine thoughts to make a mark on the capture of monsters. As time goes by, more and more spirit beasts are subdued by Yi Tian. Not only 104th level top monsters are finally subdued by Yi Tian, but also all the remaining 3rd level monsters in the designated area are collected by Yi Tian. There are 248 3rd order monsters, more than twice as many as the 4th order ones. In addition to the demons killed in the competition, there is no one alive in the cage. Yi Tian touched the ring of spirit beast and walked out of the cage contentedly. As soon as his figure appeared outside the cage, there were bursts of cheers around him. It's an eye-opener that Yi Tian perfectly realized what he thought was impossible. 12 million fairy jade. Some friars could not believe that such a huge amount of Xinyu was so easily obtained by Yi Tian, and they could not help exclaiming. Many monks looked at the alliance leader Yan Lai, who was always standing in mid-air. Yan Lai's figure flickered at this time, and he had come to Yi Tian's side. He looked at Yi Tian with great satisfaction and nodded his head slowly. Yes, Yi Tian, you have exceeded my expectations. This competition was very perfect. However, I didn't expect that you should capture all the 4-level monsters alive, and Wan Yu League would take out 12 million Xinyu. However, since I have agreed, I will never default. Although it is very painful, Xinyu, you'd better take it. Say words, burning fierce gesture micro-movement, a Shumi ring appeared in the palm, sent to the leaf day in front of. Thank you, leader. Yi Tian slightly bows and takes Sumi Jia over. He doesn't look at it and puts it away. So action, all around immediately rang out a whisper.
Even Yanlai's eyes were fixed. He took a deep look at Yi Tian. He put his palm on Yi Tian's shoulder and nodded his head with satisfaction. He vomited a few words, enough atmosphere.
Yi Tian didn't say anything, but just laughed back.
In fact, deep in his heart, he didn't care much about these immortals. What he cared more about was 100 fourth-order monsters.
Back to the earth, he was alone.
Apart from the dragon demon, the rest of the monks, including the disciples of the temple, could not meet his needs.
Although there are 96 Kunlun repairs in the cave magic weapon, the strength is still slightly insufficient.
These 100 4th-level top monsters are exactly the powerful help Yi Tian needs. Of course, the 4th-level top may not be enough for Yi Tian to value, but Yi Tian has enough assurance to refine the elixir for the monsters to break through to the 5th level with sufficient spiritual materials.
This is the main reason why Yi Tian made great efforts to subdue these monsters.
Of course, it is also what Yi Tian needs to get the ranking of the first Saint's Son and get more resource allocation. Finally, the 248 third-order monsters, but he did it easily. In short, the critical moment can also play some role. Yi Tian, rest for 3 hours, and then go on to the next contest.
Yanlai nods to Yi Tian and says, Master Yan, you don't need to adjust your breath. Now you can have a contest. But Yi Tian said with indifference.
At this time, Yanlai took a deep look at Yi Tian and said, so, the third competition started immediately. The competition rule is that the warcraft will be placed in the designated area of the cage. Each selected friar will have 3 designated areas, and each designated area will be put into 10 mage-level warcraft cultivation, 5 mage-level warcraft cultivation, and 2 mage-level warcraft cultivation among them. 10 magic generals and 5 magic kings are required to pass the competition, and 2 magic king level areas are reward areas. Every time you kill a demon, you will be rewarded with 300,000 Xianyu. The monk who successfully killed 10 demon generals and 5 demon lords is considered to have passed the competition.
He does not have to enter the reward area.
This rule is basically the same as the previous competition, except that the orc changed to the demon. After hearing this, Yi Tian didn't have any mood ups and downs.
This rule seems simpler than the last one.
However, when the deacon of Yuanyingjing put the demons into the cage, Yi Tian felt the demon state carefully and found that the problem was not as simple as he thought.
The reason is that the alliance leader Yanlai said that the devil general or the devil king only said that it was the great realm of the devil cultivation, but not the small realm.
By sensing the breath of demon cultivation, Yi Tian finds that the demon generals mentioned by Yanlai are not ordinary ones, but those who have already reached the realm of demon monarch. The powerful demon cultivation that can break through to the realm of demon monarch is the most powerful existence in the realm of demon generals. Yanlai said that the Devil King and the Devil King have reached the realm of the half-step Devil King and the half-step Devil Emperor, and the nature is the same as the Devil General. The realm of the half-step Demon Emperor has reached the realm of the half-step Yuan Infant of the Human Friars. In the competition of the Dragon's Gate Realm Saint's Son, there was a half-step magic cultivation equivalent to Yuanying Realm in the reward area. The task difficulty in this reward area is definitely not very high. Not only Yi Tian discovered this situation, but other monks who participated in the gene election also found the problem. Such a situation, let everyone gradually put away the contempt heart that just heard Yanlai announce the rules, began to become dignified. Soon, the deacon of Yuanyingjing finished placing all the demons one by one, and the monks began to enter the field. A total of 13 monks, including Yi Tian, entered the contest and assigned 39 designated areas. Every 3 designated areas are numbered and selected by the monks participating in the selection. The number Yi Tian drew is number 7. In fact, the strength of each number will not be exactly the same, but the difference will not be very big. Start. When Yanlai saw that all the 13 monks were in place, he announced in a low voice. No matter what other friars did, Yi Tian opened the first cage door and entered it. Here is the 10.5 step cultivation of the Demon King. In fact, it is still the realm of the Demon General. After all, it has not reached the realm of the Demon King. The realm of the Devil General is also equivalent to the level of the cave realm of the Human Friars. Yi Tian waved his fierce sword and killed all the 10 tall demons in a few breaths.
Immediately out of the designated area, into the next designated area. There are 5 half-stepping demons here.
When the deacon of Yuanyingjing put the magic weapons into the cage, he let the magic weapons come with them. As soon as Yi Tian gang entered the cage, 2 furious magic hands roared and hit Yi Tian fiercely with sticks. The other 3 demons also came to Yi Tian way with their weapons.
Yi Tianling snorted. He didn't even use the hidden killing technique.
His body turned into a wisp of wind and flashed across the narrow space. The red light of the fierce soldier's flying sword flashed as if it were a flash of lightning. Where the light fell, the blood splashed and the broken limbs flew. Ma Xiu was generally tall, much higher than Ye Tian. The tall body fell down, causing a lot of movement. Yi Tian didn't look, but turned out of the designated area. After he turned around, the effect of the other 4 demons being chopped by the fierce soldier's flying swords just appeared. Because Yi Tian's sword was too fast, at this time, the bodies of the 4 demons fell down one after another and hit the cage, making a loud noise. Stepping out of the cage in the designated area, Yi Tian looks at the other designated areas. The other 12 monks have all killed 10 demon generals and are fighting with 5 demon lords. He was the first one to kill 5 demons. In the third designated area, 2 tall, strong and ferocious demon kings are watching Yi Tian smash the big cage bar with his big stick. But the cage is extremely strong, even a little harder than the ordinary magic weapon. Even if the devil is fierce, he can't shake the cage. But their eyes radiated fierce light, as if they would tear Yi Tian to pieces next moment. The demon king of the half-step demon king. Yi Tian's eyes swept over the 2 demons, ignoring the situation of other monks, and began to ponder. 2 half-step demon kings, do you think Master will go to get this reward? Hua Ziqing, who was watching from a distance, saw this and asked several of his brothers. Nieba said in a determined voice, it's not necessary to say that Shifu will definitely go in. Don't say that there are 2.5-step demons. Even if there are 5 or 10, Shifu can catch them by hand. I don't think so. Yi Daoyu just separated them and defeated them one by one, and finally defeated them after a fight. However, none of the top 4 monsters is as powerful as any half-step demon emperor. Now Yi Daoyu has passed the test and successfully entered the next contest. It can be said that if there is no accident, your master has got the position of the first Dragon's Gate Saint Sun steadily, so he should not go into this reward area for adventure. At this time, Jinji said. Yes, I really can't believe that Yi Daoyu is so powerful, but those 2 are half-step demon emperors after all, and ordinary monks in the Golden Elixir realm won't easily commit suicide. I guess Yi Daoyu should know the importance of it. You see, he seems to be measuring it too. At this time, the jade leaf also interposes away, saying these words, the vision is looking at the leaf sky, there is a ray of light in the eye but not. Qin Luotian and Ear are beside each other. Neither of them speaks, but their eyes never leave Yi Tian. Their expressions are the same calm, but there are bright flashes, eyes full of determination. It seems that no matter how Yi Tian, they all believe that Yi Tian can deal with the next thing. No matter what kind of choice Yi Tian makes, it is the most correct choice. Look, Shifu went in as expected. While they were talking, Nieba suddenly said something, and everyone saw the situation there. Ah! Yi Tian went in. At this time, there was a sound of exclamation around him, and then he became quiet. All his eyes moved away from the rest of the monks and turned to Yi Tian. In line of sight, Yi Tian has opened the cage door and walks slowly into it. Seeing Yi Tian in the designated area, one of the demons with a big stick yelled, "Boy, I want to die." Then his momentum quickly climbed to a height of terror, and he was able to express his anger at Yi Tian in human language, which made Yi Tian feel a little strange. The evil self-cultivation's clothes were agitated by the magic power, and his ugly face became more and more ferocious. He said that the big stick in his hand had been hurled down to Yi Tian with the force of thunder. At the moment when everyone thought that Yi Tian would use the hidden breath technique to disappear from the original place, no one thought that Yi Tian would not dodge. Instead, he suddenly had a black gun in his hand, drew a shining arc, and rushed to the big stick. Naive. Reckless. Abandon long take short. Arrogant. Exclaimed someone in the crowd. Originally, the physical quality of the demon monk is much better than that of the Terran monk, and his natural power is boundless, which is beyond the expectation of the Terran monk. Generally speaking, when fighting with the Terran monk uses magic power to fight against the enemy with ingenious techniques, while few people directly use brute force to fight against the demon. In the eyes of all friars, such a move against the enemy is a blind move, a way to take death, and a way to overstep one's ability. However, as soon as the monk's exclamation fell, he heard a loud bang. The black gun collided with the big stick and sent out a strong afterwave of mana. It is expected that the scene of Tian being injured by a big stick does not appear. On the contrary, under a collision with Tian, Mashio sends out a loud roar, but the big magic wand in his hand flies away. Tian's body only sank down, and then his gun turned into a black dragon and stabbed him. In a twinkling, he turned back to the main and launched a fierce counterattack against Mashio. That demon cultivator is worthy of being the strong one in the half-step demon emperor realm, at least for the Longmen realm friars of the human race. He lost the initiative and the stick in his hand, but his figure retreated quickly and escaped the terrible shot of Tian. Almost at the same time, another demon roared, his body suddenly soared, his mouth opened, and a stream of black gas gushed out from his mouth. At the same time, he spurts out black gas, and the wand in his hand pulls straight at Tian to stop Tian from chasing his companion. If it's not that the designated area is too narrow to allow two magicians to fight at the same time, I'm afraid they will join hands to attack Tian. Seeing the appearance of black chi, Tian closed his 7 orifices and stopped breathing in case of being poisoned by evil chi. Search for the memory of that sorcerer outside the magic gold city. Tian knows the purpose of this kind of magic. There is evil poison in the black air emitted by the sorcerer. If the Terran friars call into their heart, they will inhibit the operation of mana, and the demons can take this opportunity to launch a fatal attack on the Terran friars. At the same time, in this kind of magic poison, the demons will become more powerful than usual, but it is not easy to cultivate this kind of magic poison. Once it is used, it will take a long time to recover. If it is not for a strong enemy, the demon cultivation will not use this kind of magic. Seeing that his companion vomited out the poison, the demon Shio, who had lost his stick, also opened his mouth and breathed out the black gas. In the blink of an eye, the black air soon fills the narrow space of the designated area, making the designated area gradually become a black area, and the visibility gradually decreases. And the two magicians at the same time each cast powerful magic to launch a fierce attack on Tian. Tianling snorts. Yuan Tianyan's eyes shine through the dark air and see the situation clearly. It has to be said that the abilities of the two magicians are still above their expectations, and they are not so easy to deal with. Except in the Valley of Life and Death, Tian once killed 5 demon emperors. He did not fight with other demon cultivators. Of course, the capture of that demon cultivator outside the magic city is not included, because the opponent's realm is too low. However, in the Valley of Life and Death, Tian only fought against the 5 evil emperors when he was wearing a grimace mask and his self-cultivation sword. In fact, it has little reference value for the current battle. At this time, one of the two magicians, the formula is constantly changing. One by one, the virtual shadows of the demons appear one after another in the dark poison, and they leap to Tian with their teeth and claws, and each shadow has the cultivation of the demon king. The other, however, called out a black magic dragon. Although it was not very big, it was full of momentum. It had the highest strength of the Devil King, and cooperated with the attack of another demon cultivation, and launched a fierce attack on Tian. The black gun in Tian's hand looks like a dragon. It turns into a black light and sweeps away to those demons. Bang! 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 The powerful power sweeps on the demons and makes a sound. The demons are like stone carvings, which are swept into countless pieces by the black gun and splashed around. Because Ling Chong is not allowed to help in this competition, Tian always chooses to fight alone. At the same time, he also wanted to see what his real strength could achieve, and he didn't use a cult kill, unless he encountered an extremely dangerous situation. Even if the situation was very difficult, he didn't give up his original idea. He wants to have a real confrontation with Ma Xiu. Obviously, the two evil practitioners did not expect that Tian, a monk in Longmen realm, had such fighting power.
Not only the evil poison could not help Tian, but also Tian took over the joint attack of the two men one by one. But the two magicians were not frightened. They just kept on attacking Tian with their magic. No, I'm afraid Shifu doesn't know about magic poison. Outside, Niaba's face suddenly changed.
In this case, Tian's other disciples also had a dignified face, and no longer had the previous determination and lightness. Evil poison is something that the friars of the human race fear. Although some people have never seen the power of evil poison, they have heard of it more than once. The longer you stay in the evil poison, the worse it is for the friars. Nieba doesn't know if Tian knows about the evil poison. After all, he knows that Tian's time in the great wilderness is too short, and he hasn't contacted the demons so far. But at this time to remind has no effect. Tian in the cage has started a fierce battle with two demon repair. The two monks in the cage were more and more frightened. They could feel Tian's realm, which was just the cultivation of Longmen realm. In the past, they only needed one hand to kill them. However, the young monk surprised them again and again. He not only had extraordinary high magic power and great strength, but also had rich experience in fighting. He was even more experienced than some Yuaniang and Huashan old monsters. Even if he released magic poison, he still had no way to deal with him. The endless magic attacks have consumed a lot of their mana, but Tian is still at ease at this time, and there is no sign of fatigue, nor is he affected by the appearance of evil poison.
Today's evil poison is as dark as ink, and the two practitioners can't see each other clearly.
They just sense each other's existence by their divine thoughts and launch a stormy attack on Tian.
But so, Tian has been fully used to the two magicians' playing methods.
Seeing that there is no new pattern in each other's play, he hums coldly. He throws his black gun forward and bursts out a black light to the front magician. Then, on Yi Tiankong's hand, a mace, which was more advanced than the two wands in the hands of the magicians, came down to the front of the magicians with the sound of a terrible wind explosion. Driven by Yi Tian's magic power, the black stick head suddenly turns into a huge virtual shadow, and the stick body covers the top of the magic repair with a terrible power.
High-level magic treasure. The evil repair just hit Yi Tian with a black gun.
When he saw the mace fall, he suddenly exclaimed, and his face was in a panic. Obviously, I didn't expect that Yi Tian had such a thing in his hand. He knew that the high-level magic weapon was more powerful than the big stick magic weapon in his hand.
He didn't dare to connect it by force, so he had to dodge.
Unfortunately, the devil forgot that it was in the cage, and it was also a very narrow designated area in the cage. As soon as he had the evasive action, his huge body hit the big cage bar, and he couldn't help but bounce back. At this time, Yi Tian's wolf tooth magic treasure just fell down and hit the magician, making a very clear click sound. Before he even had time to hum, he had been smashed into a meat pie by the mace magic treasure.
No, it's the sound of the magic weapon hitting the body.
Among the onlookers was a monk with extremely strong ear power. Although the evil poison was as black as ink, his sight could not be seen clearly, and his mind could not go deep. He could not help shouting when he heard this situation just by his ear power.
The sound of magic weapon hitting the body. As long as there are magic weapons in the hands of demons,
and the demon clan won't smash its own people,
it must be the only Terran friar in the cage. Yi Tian.
This sentence yelled out, the crowd immediately became silent. If Yi Tian was hit by a magic weapon according to this monk, he would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. But at this time, the friar added, it's a terrible smash. You should break your tendons and fracture your whole body.
If Yi Tian is really hit, I'm afraid there will be no life or death. It's a pity.
Speaking of this, the friar shook his head inside. Suddenly, his ear moved and said again, no, it's not Yi Tian.
There's still fighting inside. It should be the demons.
Listen, there is another sound, or the sound of the magic weapon hitting the body. Because this friar is far away from the cage, the other friars nearby are not high, and the war situation in the cage is not very clear, so we can only listen to this man's explanation. After this sentence came out, people took a long breath, but there were still many doubts in their eyes. First, if Yi Tian hit Mashio, where did Yi Tian's magic weapon come from? If Yi Tian snatched it from Ma Xiu in the fierce battle, it would be a little too terrible.
In addition, if the first sound of bone and flesh breaking is not from Yi Tian, but from Yi Tian smashing into the demon repair, then is it possible that the second sound is from Yi Tian? Some people can't help thinking so.
The results were soon revealed. With the sound of opening the cage door, Yi Tian walked out slowly in the dark poison, with a light look and neat clothes, just like before entering the cage. His face was calm and calm. At this time in the cage, Yi Tian out of the dark poison inside, no sound. With the opening of the cage door, the dark poison began to spread out slowly, diffused in the air of the wilderness, spread more and more, and finally disappeared into the invisible. Meanwhile, the magic poison in the designated area of the cage gradually thinned out, slowly showing the situation inside. The two half-magic emperor's magical cultivation had all turned into flesh and mud like corpses, lying quietly in the cage, looking extremely miserable. It is clear at a glance who wins or loses. At this time, only in other designated areas can the selected monks leave the cage. The first was a friar named Fan Chang. He was covered with blood, his hair was in disorder, and his face was full of grief and indignation. In a hurry, he opened the cage door and jumped out. He closed the cage door with his backhand. A magic force hit the cage door somewhere, and the prohibition of the cage door suddenly opened. The two demons who were chasing behind began to hit the cage door violently, making a roaring sound. Looking at the two ferocious Ma Xiu trapped in the cage, Fan Chunkai took a long breath. In the designated area, 3 demons had been killed, and only 2 of them almost left him in the cage forever. Obviously, Fan Chang failed in the competition and lost the qualification to enter the next competition for Longmen Xingzi. Then 2 more monks escaped from the cage and failed in the same level. One of the monks even killed 4 of them, but when he faced the last one, he fell short because of his heavy injury. Although he was unwilling, but in the case of severe loss of mana and serious injury, if he didn't want to fall into the cage, he had no choice but to give up the competition and escape. Finally, after a while, there was a monk who successfully killed 5 demons. But such friars are all scarred. It seems that they have experienced a fierce battle. Such a friar may have the strength to defeat the friars in the Golden Elixir realm, but in the face of the fierce attack of the 5 half-step demon kings, he is really a little overwhelmed.
There is no doubt that every monk who can win in this contest is the best one in the same realm. But there are not many such monks, only 4. In other words, the 3 Longmen saints will be selected from the 4 monks, and only one of them needs to be eliminated. However, up to now, all the monks have recognized Yi Tian. Although the last competition has not yet been held, Yi Tian's strength has far surpassed that of other monks. In other words, Yi Tian is not at the same level as those monks. Even some monks feel that if Yi Tian participates in the competition of the Golden Elixir, there may be a glimmer of hope to win. When all the monks came out of the cage, the winners and losers were cheered like thunder. After all, every monk who can get to this step is the most powerful one in the same realm. No matter in terms of talent or savvy, including the level of diligence, they are not comparable to other monks in the same realm. These are brave warriors who dare to fight against the demons and deserve due respect. Among the onlookers, only 3 friars, Luo Xiu, Lu Yu and Tan Xiao, looked gloomy and ugly. If there had been no accident, the 3 of them had great hope of becoming the Dragon's Gate Saint's son. Especially now, except for Lu Yu, the other 3 monks who won were all worse than them. I felt even more unbalanced. If Yi Tian had not eliminated them in the first round, there would be 3 of them. Thinking of this, the 3 people's eyes looking at Yi Tian are full of endless resentment. They wish they could tear Yi Tian to solve their hatred. At this time, Yanlai fell steadily on the ground from the sky and looked at the 4 monks who won. The deep wrinkles on his face seemed to be with a smile. Yes, there are still 4 warriors to win, which shows that there are a large number of skillful people of the human race. Yi Tian, in particular, once again lived up to his high expectations. He broke through 3 hurdles and killed 2 half-step demon practitioners, which greatly increased the prestige of the Terran friars. Once again, he successfully won the reward of 600,000 Xianyu. Fortunately, I only set up a small amount of rewards, otherwise Yi Tian will empty the years of accumulation of Wanyu League. The last sentence, of course, was a joke, which made everyone laugh.
Almost all of them recognized the appreciation of Yi Tian and Yan Lai's words. In the crowd, Luo Xiu, Lu Yu and Tan Zhao's faces were even more ugly. They were so dark that they could drip water. At this time, Yan Lai takes out a Xiumi ring again. With a flick, Xiumi ring slowly flies to Yi Tian. Yi Tian took over and said thanks to Yan Lai. Yan Lai waved his hand and said in a low voice, since 3 of the 4 monks who passed the competition were injured, the next competition will be held in 10 days. Today's competition is over. After the announcement, he sent a message to Yi Tian, now you have a lot of fairy jade. It's hard to avoid people coveting you. I have a lot of things. I can't pay attention to you all the time. In order to ensure everything, you'd better follow me to Wanyu League. It's absolutely safe there. Yi Tian's heart warms up and gives thanks to Yan Lai. However, the next moment, he refuses Yan Lai's proposal. Thank you for your support. Even if Yi Tian is sheltered by the leader for a while, can he still be sheltered for a lifetime? The holy sun that Wanyu League needs is not the kind of delicate flowers and tender grass that needs others to shelter from the wind and rain. In any case, even in the face of danger, it is also a kind of experience. Yi Tian wants to make his own arrangements and come here on time to participate in the last competition in 10 days. Yan Lai once again deeply saw a leaf day one eye, what words all didn't say, just lightly ordered ahead, immediately already disappeared from the original place, didn't know where to go. Yi Xiaoyu, I have something to discuss with you. I wonder if you can take a step to talk to me. Yan Lai just left, a gorgeous friar who looked 40 or 50 years old came to Yi Tian and nodded to him. Yi Tianlu knows each other's realm as soon as he feels it. Just when he guesses the other's intention, the king of Zhenbei suddenly appears in front of Yi Tian. My subordinates have met the king of Zhenbei. The monk of the spiritual realm bowed slightly. The king of Zhenbei waved his hand gently, Lord Yan, if you have something to say, I have something to do with Yi Tian. It's actually a city leader, and I don't know which city. Yi Tian's impression is that he only has something to do with the city leaders of Qingshan City and Fengyun City. After hearing what Zhenbei Wang said, the lord of Yan City hesitated for a moment, and finally spoke again, my husband, Yan Zihua, the lord of Shirin City, is a 19-year-old girl. She is beautiful and beautiful. Although she is still in a low level, she has excellent qualifications. She was admiring Yi Xiaoyu when she saw Yi Xiaoyu before. What are they talking about? In the crowd, Ir and Qin Luoshan are far away. They can only see each other talking, but they can't hear each other. Ir is curious and asks Nieba next to them. Nieba scratched his head and said with a smile, Master seems to have had a good fortune. The lord of Yan City is begging for his daughter. What? Courtship? Isun smell speech facial expression big change, saw a Qin Luo god, discovered Qin Luo god facial expression is also very ugly, then pull Qin Luo god to fly to the position of leaf sky. Lord Yan, I'm afraid I'm going to brush the goodwill of the Lord. Yi already has a couple. I'm really sorry. In the field, Yi Tian doesn't wait for the friar to finish, but he has already refused each other. Yes, brother Yi Tian already has a Taoist partner. Sister Luo Shin and I are both. The Yi sun that flies to near front hears the answer of Leaf Day, greatly satisfied, also have no the slightest taboo, say directly. Yes, we are all Yi Tian's lovers. Qin Luoshan is more bold. He holds Yi Tian's arm in full view of the public. Yi Er doesn't show any weakness, but also reaches out to hold Yi Tian's other arm. The appearance of 2 gorgeous beauties attracted countless envious eyes, and some young nuns, whose shining eyes suddenly dimmed, had a lonely look on their faces. Yi Tian is also a Lang, he did not expect that the second daughter in such an occasion to his heart, so the need for how much courage Originally, he meant Ning Yao, but in such a situation, he couldn't refute Qin Luoshan and Yi Er's face, so he had to shut up. In this case, in the eyes of the Lord Yen, it was tacit. See strict city lord embarrassed ground to smile away, poor his old man abrupt, leave small friend Imo strange. With that, Lord Yan's body moved, and he was already flying into the crowd. Wang Yi, what can I do for you? At this time, Yi Tian looks at the king of Zhenbei. The king of Zhenbei's face flashed away. He took a look at Qin Luoshan and Ear, and then said, in fact, it's no big deal.
I want to tell Yi Xiaoyu that it's better to have a good life in the next 10 days to meet the last competition. With that, he nodded to Yi Tian, and the next moment Yi Tian knew that the king of Jinbei was insincere, but since the other side didn't say it, it was inconvenient for him to ask more, not to mention that the other side had already left. Brother Yi Tian, the king of North Town will not have another daughter, will he? I'm also in love with you? Xin Luotian half-jokingly said, looking at Yi Tian's eyes full of infinite tenderness. Nonsense, how old is Jinbei Wang? If he had a daughter, he would be older than my mother. Let's go. Speaking of this, Yi Tian suddenly pulls Qin Luo God in air to fly to the distance. In his sight, more than a dozen of the onlookers came to him. He didn't want to have any intersection with too many people, so he would avoid them if he could. The dozen people saw that Yi Tian had left, and they all stopped to talk to each other. Originally, they wanted to make friends with Yi Tian, but they also knew that it was too presumptuous. After all, Yi Tian had a huge amount of fairy jade, so it was inevitable that he was not on guard. Watching Yi Tian leave, Nieba and other 9 disciples nod to each other and then turn into a light to chase Yi Tian. Next to the golden branch and jade leaf look at each other, also tail with Nieba and others chase down. After flying hundreds of miles, Yi Tian Kai stopped his body. In the distance, he could see a lot of light leaving the wilderness and going west. Yi Tian is now in the direction of the underworld, because no monk will come here and make a clean scene. Master is so powerful. Master, today is really brilliant. Nieba and others surrounded and said. Yi Tian suddenly stares at the uninvited Jinji and Yuye. They are also called masters just now. With Yi Tian's eyes touched, Jinji and Yuye bit the teeth of biting jade, knelt down hand in hand, and gently lowered their heads to reveal the white jade neck. We also want to worship under the master's door and hope that the master will succeed. In the great wilderness, Jinji and Yuye are the friars Yi Tian first met. They are very predestined. Yi Tian has tried to pay off the love he owed before. Originally thought that there would be no intersection, did not expect to meet unexpectedly in this Longmen Xingzi Jin election. Now I kneel down in front of myself and ask to bow down. When Yi Tian was in the square-inch spirit realm, he had already accepted countless apprentices, and naturally he was not bad for them. Most importantly, they have a good mind. They can be regarded as the epitome of the monks who practiced hard in the spiritual realm of the great wilderness. But some words, Yi Tian also want to understand. He did not immediately nod his head, but looked at the second daughter and said, Jinji, Yuya, 2 Taoist friends also know that Yi is from the Earth Star. Now the Earth Star has encountered some crises, and one day I may suddenly return to the Earth Star. I've offended some people in the great wilderness. If I leave here in the future, I'm afraid that as a disciple, I will have to bear the possible revenge for my master. So, you should think about it clearly. Jinji and Yuya said without any hesitation, Master, don't worry. We don't have any relatives in the great wilderness. We can take us where Master wants to go, and our sisters can serve Master in front and back. Brother Yi Tian, you agree? Sister Jinji and Sister Yuye are sincere, and we get along well. If we are separated, we will miss each other. At this time, the cunning color in Yir's eyes suddenly advised that if Yi Tianyi and Yu Yi became masters and apprentices, I'm afraid they would not have any wrong ideas from the human relations avenue. Yes, Yi Tian, Jinji and Yu Ye are very good. They won't insult the school. Qin Luotian also spoke at the right time. Thank you very much. Jinji and Yu Ye kowtow to Yi Tian 3 times when they hear the words. Then they turned to Qin Luotian and Er and kowtow to him. Get up quickly. Qin Luotian and Er held up one person and looked at each other with a smile. They seemed to enjoy the title of teacher's mother. Yi Tian had already agreed in his heart. Now seeing that Qin Luo God and Er had such a quarrel, he didn't say anything more. He should have done it. Next, he gave the 2 girls a gift to meet each other. Each of them had a magic weapon and set up the title of master and apprentice. Jinji and Yuya respectfully take over and stand together with Nieba and others. Master, if you want to return to the Earth Star, your disciples are willing to follow you and serve you. Nieba and others heard Yi Tian talk about returning to Earth for the first time. At this time, they expressed their position together. Well, if possible, I will take you back with me. The Earth Star is just at the time of employing people, so Yi Tian will not refuse. Next, Yi Tian took out the magic weapon cave and went in with many disciples. See you, Grandmaster. In the magic cave, 96 Kunlun practitioners are practicing.
When they hear that Yi Tian comes in, they immediately stop practicing and salute Yi Tian.
Good recovery.
This time, Yi Tian came in for the first time after Huajiapool. He was in a good mood when he saw that Kunlun cultivation was stronger than before.
It's all thanks to the Grandmaster, disciple? Thank the Grandmaster for his kindness. Ko Yuanshuan knelt down with many Kunlun practitioners. Well, don't be so polite. I'm here to introduce you. These are my disciples. Yi Tian Chamiaba, Jinziyui and others pointed out.
At this time, Yi Tian's 11 disciples were stunned. They never thought that there would be so many people in Yi Tian's magic cave, and they were all weird people with wings. They also called Master their Grandmaster. And these people also have the cultivation of the Golden Elixir realm. They are a little messy for a while.
Ko Yuanshuan and other Kunlun practitioners heard that these people were Yi Tian's disciples. Just after they got up, they knelt down again. They really called out, Yushizu, I'm here to see you. Get up, get up. Nyeba laughs and reaches out his hand to help him.
Since he worships Yi Tian as his teacher, his disciples have been ridiculed. Up to now, it seems that they have taken a lot of advantage, not to mention that they have suffered a loss. There are a group of monks in the same realm who call themselves Shizu.
They feel confident in an instant.
But these disciples are more and more curious about Yi Tian.
How can there be so many younger disciples in Jindan realm? What's more, the Grandmaster's name is puzzling. How high seniority does it need? Qi Luoshan and Ir, who followed the crowd, were also surprised.
They never knew the existence of Kunlun Xiu. But at the thought of Yi Tian's rebirth, all the doubts are relieved. Once a great friar in Yupu, even if something strange happened, it didn't seem like a big deal. Yi Tian, after all, is Yi Tian, a mysterious and miraculous Yi Tian.
Yi Tian didn't introduce Qin Luoshan and Ir.
He didn't think it was appropriate to introduce them, so he simply omitted this link. Next, Yi Tian asked Kunlun Xiu and these disciples to introduce themselves in turn, and they met each other. After the introduction, Yi Tian told the disciples about the time field in the magic weapon cave and asked them to stay here to practice with Kunlun practitioners. This time field made all the disciples very happy. Naturally, they would like to be arranged like this. After leaving the magic cave, Yi Tian takes out the time and space tower and goes in with Qin Luo God and Ir. Before entering the tower, he released a number of heartworms to investigate the situation everywhere. At the same time, he released 100 new monsters to guard outside the magic cave and the time and space tower. This time, Yi Tian has gained a lot. The biggest harvest is the 100 monsters. His strength has grown many times.
There is no sun and moon in the Tower of Time and Space.
I don't know how many days later, Yi Tian, who was practicing in the tower, suddenly opened his eyes.
The Liangxingkong left at the site of Mon Yuan competition did not find any abnormal situation, and it was obviously not time for the last competition. But a heartworm that goes deep into the underworld has sent back the picture.
Originally thousands of miles away, the vast dark fog suddenly spread to the east, and the boundless dark fog is spreading in its own direction at a terrifying speed. After a little meditation, Yi Tian walked out of the time and space tower and hit it with a magic power. After shrinking, he received Shumi commandment. The same was true of the magic cave. He took it away, including his 11 disciples and all Kunlun practitioners. Then Yi Tian put 100 monsters into the spirit beast ring, and continued to observe the changes of the dark fog through the pictures transmitted by the heartworm.
Buzz.
While he was observing, he felt that the fierce swords and Shumi precepts were humming and shaking. Yi Tian observes the fog which is spreading rapidly to this side. He thinks that the fierce sword has already appeared in his hand.
At this time, the fierce flying sword was extremely abnormal.
The light of the sword body was flashing, sometimes red and black, sometimes incandescent and dazzling white. At the same time, the fierce flying sword was always humming. It seems to be sending out endless bloodthirsty and fierce intention. It seems to break away from Yi Tian's sword-holding hand and fly to the boundless dark fog in the wilderness. The fierce sword has only fierce intention and no fear. However, Yi Tian has to weigh the pros and cons and can't act rashly. The dark fog is expanding very fast, like a black line on the horizon, boundless. I don't know the coverage. I don't need to guess how many dark repairs are pushing the dark stone at the same time. After a little meditation, Yi Tian once again put the fierce sword into Shumi commandment, and let it shake wantonly and ignore it. Only through the view of Liangxingkong, we can see the expansion of the dark fog, and even order one of Liangxingkong to go deep into the dark fog. As Yi Tian expected, the endless white bones and skeletons are pushing the dark stone, releasing the dark fog and expanding to the Terran territory. The scene is extremely terrifying. The number of skeletons is too many, and it has reached an uncountable level. The sea is full of skeletons. Yi Tianzhang is feeling the picture in his mind. When he is pondering in his heart, suddenly ripples appear in the sky not far away, and then there are people. The first one appeared was the alliance leader Yan Lai. Among the more than a dozen great friars in Yupujing, Yi Tian only knew Zhenbei King and Lanling Marquis, while the others were very strange. However, Yi Tian's experience has conjectured that most of these people are among the 4 princes and 8 princes. Yi Tian didn't say hello to any of them, but everyone including Yan Lai nodded to Yi Tian. Obviously, even the friars Yi Tian didn't know seemed to know that he was general and nodded with a soft smile, but they didn't say anything. Those people should have felt the dark fog in the distance, and their faces gradually stood in the same place, looking at the direction of the spread of the dark fog. Suddenly, the alliance leader Yan Lai suddenly looks at Yi Tian and asks, Yi Xiaoyu, what you said before is to find a way to rob the pool of water. Do you have any idea? Yi Tian knew that Yan Lai must have something to do with the invasion of the underworld. At that time, he didn't say that he had found a way to generate water. Now is the critical moment, even involving the lives of many human friars. Yi Tian naturally won't hide it. He nodded slightly and said, after a period of exploration, the younger generation has come up with a method that should be able to generate a huge amount of water. What's the chance? Inflamed fierce complexion a happy ground asks away, the vision is burning ground looking at leaf sky, the blazing in the eye does not conceal. If there is no accident, we should be absolutely sure. If there is something thoughtless, there should be at least a 90% chance that we can make up for the deficiency at any time. Yi Tian said confidently. What he said about the accident is actually very simple, that is, the ratio of the stones at the bottom of the Huaca pool to the stones on the mountain. But as long as the number of these 2 kinds of stones is enough and the space is enough, it is certainly not a problem to produce Huaca water. Hearing the 90% probability, Yan Lai is already satisfied. When Yi Tian says that there is no accident and he can be absolutely sure, the blazing in Yan Lai's eyes is more intense. He walked slowly in front of Yi Tian and said, now the underworld's looting has broken out and is spreading to the rest of the underworld, threatening the safety of the underworld. Therefore, the underworld is desperate to invade the Terran area. It's a coincidence that these 2 invasions have caught up with the gene election of Long Menxingzi. It's really a twists and turns. There are so many high-level demons in the underworld. It's not helpful to rely on us and other human friars to resist them, especially in the dark fog. If the dark fog is allowed to spread, the Terran will retreat step by step. If the territory is lost again and again, it will be eaten by the underworld. So I'm going to use a lot of looting embers to interrupt the invasion of Mingxiu and block his attack. But in this way, the friars carrying the looted embers would be infected with the smell of looted embers. Although the Dan prescription provided by you can restore the monk's strength in a short time, there are several spiritual materials, so it is impossible to refine too many Dan medicines. In addition, the water of Huajia pool is also very limited, which cannot be used by millions of monks. Millions of friars? Hearing this number, Yi Tian was stunned. Obviously, he didn't expect that Yan Lai had the courage to break the bridge and let millions of friars block the invasion road of the underworld with looting ashes. Yan Lai looked at Yi Tian and nodded, yes, there are millions or even more monks. I also know that it is absolutely impossible to allocate such a large amount of water in a short time, but as long as it can be configured, some of the core monks can be allowed to destroy the breath first, or they can recover their cultivation as soon as possible and participate in the fight against the underworld again.
I don't know how soon Yi Xiaoyu can deploy chemical water robbery?
Smelling speech, Yi Tian knew that Yan Lai had misunderstood his own meaning, so he explained with a smile, although the amount of several million monks is large, it's not difficult to prepare. It only takes about 10 days to see. The younger generation just think that since so many friars are used, we should expand the Terran area and circle the underworld area, so that the Terran can have more living space and get more resources.
After hearing what Yi Tian said, Yan Lai looked at the other great monks and couldn't help laughing. I don't think so.
It's just that this thing is too difficult.
In the dark fog, it's the world of spiritual cultivation. Although there are many great monks in our clan, once there's a war, we, even the monks in the spirit realm, will be entangled by high-level magical cultivation. We can't fight against the underworld. The rest depends on the monks below the realm of God. The number of underworld practitioners is endless, which is beyond our imagination. It's not meaningful to circle too few demon areas.
If there are too many circles, it's hard for the Terran friars to cope with. And once the Terran friars go deep into the area of the underworld, even if they can cast the looting embers, they will not be able to retreat completely. It is very likely that the whole army will be destroyed, and the gain is not worth the loss. Yi Tian frowned and said, Master Yan, as far as I know, using the magic stone, the magic chi can neutralize the dark fog. The younger generation means why not use the magic stone, so that the scope of the dark fog can be narrowed and the underworld can be forced to retreat. In this case, the arrangement of the looting embers will be safe. After hearing this, Yan Lai sent out a bitter smile again. Although Yi Xiaoyu came to the great wilderness spiritual realm for a short time, he knew a lot about it. This method is the way that Terran friars usually deal with the underworld. One is to use the dark stone to devour the dark fog, the other is to use the magic stone to neutralize the dark fog. But for a long time, the ghost stones and magic stones produced by the Terran side have been used up very little, and the amount of the ghost stones and magic stones captured from the demon and the underworld was not much, and after several times of consumption, although there is some stock, the quantity is far from enough to implement this plan.
So it is.
This time it's Yi Tian's turn to smile. Master Yan, I have some magic stones here.
I don't know if they can play some role?
Yi Xiaoyu, even if you killed several demons and captured some magic stones, the huge number of magic stones needed to neutralize the endless dark fog is absolutely beyond your imagination. If you don't mention Yi Xiaoyu's magic stone, Yan Lai says in the mouth, but suddenly sees a Shumi ring in Yi Tian's hand and comes to his side.
See if these are enough?
The magic stone Yi Tian got in the magic city is full of 124 rings.
He only took out about half of them this time.
After all, in the future, he may also need magic stones. Even if there were only 50 or 60 Shumi commandments, Yan Lai and all the great monks could not help but look confused.
Are these magic stones?
Even when he reached such a state, he could not help being moved.
Yi Tian nodded his head. Exactly, there are magic stones in it.
If you don't believe it, the leader of Yan Alliance can check it. Yan Lai no longer spoke, reached for a move, and took a Shumi ring in his hand. The other 10 monks did the same, and each took a Shumi ring to check. The burning spirit penetrated into Shumi ring, and his eyes immediately showed the color of shock. In Shumi ring, there were a large number of magic stones piled up neatly, occupying a large area, and the quantity was totally beyond his imagination. Then, his gesture moves again, and another Shumi ring in Yi Tian's hand is called into his hand. Looking at it, he finds that there are also massive magic stones in it. Yan Lai did not continue to check, but looked at the other dozen monks, but saw that the other side's eyes were also full of shock. Needless to ask, just from the look, Yan Lai already knew what they had seen. From the number of magic stones in one Shumi ring, we can calculate the total amount of magic stones in all Shumi rings. It is a huge number of magic stones, which is almost unimaginable even as the leader of the alliance. Yan Lai didn't continue to check, but the other great friars looked at the remaining 50 Shumi precepts. After checking, their eyes glowed with a shining look, and they could not help the agitation in their hearts. They nodded to Yan Lai repeatedly. By this time, Yan Lai had fully confirmed that all the 50 or 60 Shumi rings were full of magic stones, which were enough to make the friars of the Wanyu League have great achievements. Yi Xiaoyu, where do these magic stones come from? Yan Lai steps forward and asks. This step seems to be just a slight step, but the distance of more than 10 meters is crossed by him in a flash and comes to Yi Tian's side. More than a dozen other great friars also gathered around. Yi Tian explained briefly, the leader of Yan Alliance should remember that the younger generation went to the Demon King mountain of the ORC. The young son of the White Ape Demon King was chased and killed by the White Ape Demon King and strayed into the territory of the demons. These magic stones are a treasure house of the demons called Majin City.
The treasure house of Magic Gold City?
Yan Lai's eyes showed a kind of expression which was difficult to understand. He looked at Yi Tian with other great monks and said, the treasure house of the Magic Gold City. Naturally, I know that it's not only a treasure house of the Magic Gold City, but also a frontier fortress for the demons to attack the Terrans. Many resources of the demons are stored there. You mean the magic stone from the treasure house of Magic Gold City? Yi Tian nodded slightly. It's true that the younger generation has come to Dahuang's spirit realm for a short time. I don't know much about the situation of the demons. After entering the demon kingdom by chance and getting rid of the tracking of the White Ape Demon King, I once captured a demon cultivator and was ready to get to know him. After a soul search, he learned about the treasure house, so he went in and took the magic stone back. Turnaround? Hearing that Yi Tian described it so easily, Yan Lai showed a wry smile. He looked at the people around him again and said, Yi Xiaoyu may not know. I've already got the idea of that treasure house, and I sent people to take action before you went to the Magic City. It's just that the demons are very strict. The treasure house also has a strong field protection. The people I sent out have been found before they entered the treasure house, and even more than a dozen of them fell into the Magic Gold City. After that time, the demons were more closely guarded, and they set up a net to wait for us, the Terran friars, to take action again. Therefore, I don't want to think about that treasure house anymore, because everything is in vain.
There are too many backhand arranged by the demons. If I go there again, I will be dead. I just can't imagine.
Speaking of this, Yan Laidun, just want not to be Yi Xiaoyu, it is too unexpected. Until now, I really understand the real reason why the demons withdrew. The evil Emperor Bisho may be really injured, but it is by no means the main reason for his retreat.
I have always been confused about this.
Now it seems that it is because the demons invaded the Wanyu League and the resources were looted by Yi Xiaoyu, so that the resources could not be replenished in time, so the demons had to withdraw. Judging from the magic stones Yi Xiaoyu obtained, the demons must have broken their bones.
Now it's in the hands of the Terran, just used to deal with the underworld, these stones are enough.
Yi Xiaoyu, this time, you have made great contributions.
You can choose any reward you want. However, Yi Tian waved his hand and said, it's really embarrassing for Yi Tian to say this. How can I say that I'm also a member of the human race? It's a matter of course to do something for my family. Besides, the leader of Yan Alliance has given the younger generation a lot of Xinyu, which is enough to withstand these magic stones. I didn't know that Wanyu League needed magic stones so badly, otherwise I would have offered it to the Terran for free. That's no good. 1 yard is 1 yard.
You got Xinyu by virtue of the Dragon's Gate competition.
It has nothing to do with the magic stone. There must be rewards. However, it seems that it's not the time to talk about this.
After retiring from the underworld, we can discuss the merits together. What Yi Xiaoyu urgently needs to solve now is the preparation of chemical robbery water.
This task is up to you. If you need anything from me, you can bring it up at any time.
I will arrange a special person to cooperate with you.
Next, I'm going to set up something to fight against the underworld.
I'll use your magic stone to retreat the underworld fog first, and then I'll set up the looting embers. Inflamed Fierce unquestionably put to wave a hand, interrupted the words of Leaf Day, so arranged a time. Yi Tian thought for a moment and said, this method of preparing the chemical robbing pool needs to use some materials from the underground chemical robbing pool. This will change the mountain and the bottom of the pool, but it will never affect the use of the original chemical robbing pool. Moreover, according to the younger generation's idea, it turned out that the Huajia pool was underground, and the monks were forbidden to enter and leave, which was inconvenient. It's better to build a new Huajia pool nearby. It's also convenient for the warriors returning from the underworld to enter the Huajie pool at the first time and get rid of the smell of looting.
Very good. It's up to you to make the decision.
As for the person who cooperates, you should choose the Marquis of Lanling.
As long as you think it's appropriate, you don't have to ask me.
Marquis Lanling, take Yi Xiaoyu back to the Huajie pool to prepare. I have only one requirement, that is, to prepare enough Huajie water as soon as possible.
While observing the changes of the dark fog, Yan Lai said that he gave Yi Tian enough power in these details.
Yi Tian knows that the attack of the underworld is fierce, and there are too many things Yan Lai needs to arrange, so he bows his hand to Yan Lai and looks at the Marquis of Lanling.
The Marquis of Lanling understood and grasped Yi Tian's arm to perform the big move skill.
His body and Yi Tian disappeared at the same time. After several big moves, Yi Tian and Marquis Lanling appear in front of the mountain where Huaca Pool is located.
They open the heavy prohibition of underground Huaca Pool and come to Huaca Pool again. Yi Xiaoyu, what to do after that?
According to the meaning of Alliance Leader Yan, you can put it forward, Wan Yu Alliance will fully cooperate with you. The Marquis of Lanling knew that the responsibility of this trip was great, and there was no unnecessary nonsense, so he handed over the details to Yi Tian again.
Yi Tian looked around for a while, then drew back his eyes and said, Marquis, I need some friars, between 200 and 500. If there are enough people, it's better to be 500. No problem.
Lan Lingho agreed without hesitation, then took out a messenger and said a few words in a soft voice, which inspired him to go out. Soon, the sound of footsteps came, and a group of friars came in from the underpass through heavy prohibition. Yi Tian takes a look and finds that there are about 600 or 700 people, more than he needs.
Moreover, his accomplishments are mostly in the Golden Elixir realm, and there are even hundreds of old monsters in Yuanying realm.
Let these old monsters in Yuanying realm repair the robbing pool. Yi Tian's heart has a little strange feeling.
Everyone, the first priority of the Terran is to rebuild the Huajiechi.
Yi Tian is in charge of this matter.
No matter how old you are, no matter where you go, no matter what your original duty is, you have to obey Yi Tian's instructions.
Violators will be dealt with according to the League rules.
Seeing the arrival of the crowd, the Marquis of Lanling spoke in a fierce voice.
After hearing the words, many monks felt awestruck in their hearts and answered in unison. No one spoke anymore, waiting for Yi Tian to arrange his next action.
These fellow workers, you can dig in this direction, the height is only 5 zhang, and stop digging after 200 zhang.
All the stones should be half a zhang long, half a zhang high and 3 feet thick.
Put away all the stones and use them in the next step.
Without further delay, Yi Tian pointed to more than 100 of them, then pointed out the direction of excavation and explained the details. Later, he appointed more than 100 monks and pointed in another direction. Fellow monks, this is still the case.
Dig about 1,960 meters in this direction.
All the stones are of the same height.
Move forward quickly and expand the robbery pool.
After arranging these friars, Yi Tian assigned 2 teams of more than 100 friars to dig in 2 different directions.
The details are also explained in detail one by one. After the task of the 4 friars teams is arranged, Yi Tian looks at the remaining 200 friars. After a little calculation, a team of 30 people was again sent to collect water. Then Yi Tian and other friars flew to the top of the mountain full of stalactites.
From the beginning to the end, the king of Lanling didn't say a word.
He just looked at Yi Tian's orderly scheduling. At this time, Yi Tian's performance gave her a kind of illusion. It seems that Yi Tian is not a monk in Longmen realm, but a monk who has experienced a lot of wind and rain and is used to seeing big waves. His eyes are calm and orderly. There is no low-level friars in front of the high-level friars, and there is no powerful bossing. It seems to be calm and orderly, and even in a way, Yi Tian is more impressive than himself, which makes the Marquis of Lanling wonder. This kind of thing is not innate to have, but a kind of experience after tempering will make people have such tolerance. Although Yi Tian is only 20 years old, he knows that Yi Tian must have many stories. In particular, Yi Tiangong's scheduling made her a little more curious. Every time Yi Tian assigned monks to dig rocks, they would be accurate to the specific measurement. After thinking for a long time, the Marquis of Lanling could not figure out why it was such a size.
I can't help but feel more mysterious about Yi Tian. Next, she flew to the top of the cave with Yi Tian's figure, and saw that Yi Tian continued to assign tasks in an orderly way, asking the friars to take rocks from somewhere, the specific size and the distance.
What a wonderful talent! The Marquis of Lonling was filled with admiration.
Many friars had spent countless years trying to solve the mystery of robbing water, but they had no way. It was not long before Yi Tiangang arrived at the spiritual realm of the great wilderness that he found the secret. Every great event he did brought endless benefits to the human race, and he was praised by Taisui as the existence of all friars. Up to now, the Marquis of Lonling has only seen Yi Tian, such a legendary young monk, although he is still very young and his realm is still very low. But the future must be full of infinite possibilities. I just don't know whether he can really create the water robbery and save the lives of countless friars.
We can only wait and see. Time goes by bit.
According to the assignment of Yi Tian, many friars are busy with the excavation task, and the Huajia pool is constantly expanding and the area is getting larger and larger. However, the original Huaca pool still exists in the original trough. Yi Tian did not fully open the pool around it, but left a levee about 10 meters wide to separate the original Huaca pool from the newly opened one. The advantage of this is that once Yi Tianxin's chemical robbing water fails to achieve the desired effect, it can continue to use the original chemical robbing water.
This is also the back road reserved by Yi Tian, who is always cautious.
Yi Daoyu, the rock of 1,560 feet has been mined.
Do you want to continue to dig?
Half a day later, a monk of Yuanyingjing flashed over and reported his progress to Yi Tian.
Yi Tian waved his hand and said, "There's no need to continue digging.
If you go further, there's no such kind of rock to pick. There's no other stone to rob the pool."
Really? Yi Daoyu was able to discover this situation at a distance of 1,560 feet before? The monk frowned and asked in disbelief. Other friars also looked at Yi Tian with such questions. After all, this kind of magical power really sounds a little shocking. Even the Marquis of Lonling is also a beautiful eyes, swept Yi Tian one eye, waiting for his answer. Who knows? Yi Tian nodded his head indifferently. This is nature. I have a little magic power in my eyes. I can see through some things that others can't see. Shenmu?
Do you have any magical powers? The monk lost his voice. It's the first time that Yi Tian heard such a name from Shenmu, but he felt that it should be similar to Yuan-Tianian, just different.
He nodded and said no more. If we dig another half a foot in a small area, will it affect the Huajia pool?
Asked the friar of Yuanyingjing.
Of course, it won't make any difference. It's just that digging another half a foot is not good for Huajia pool. If Taoists are curious, just dig and have a look. Yi Tian smiles calmly, feeling that the monk's curiosity is really heavy.
Good. The monk of Yuanyingjing answered and stabbed his magic weapon flying sword at the stone wall.
The hard stone wall was like tofu. He easily pierced it.
Then the sword breathed and the magic power penetrated into the stone wall for nearly a zhang. The monk of Yuanyingjing kept on his hand. The magic weapon flying sword gently moved on the stone wall, making a square sword mark. When the mark of the sword was closed, the friar took out his sword and pressed his palm on the cut stone. As soon as his magic power was shaken, he heard a click sound, and the square stone was broken directly from the inside, which seemed to be loose. The man reached out again and drew the square stone out of the hole. In this way, the square stone was exposed to the public's eyes.
Quiet. There was silence all around.
All the people on the scene were staring at the square stone with a look of shock in their eyes. The square stone, which was originally cyan in color, suddenly changed its color to brown about half a meter away.
The contrast of color is very obvious.
Not only that, but also the quality of the stone has changed. The blue stone here is fine and smooth, like a beautiful jade, while the brown half is very rough, with clear grain size and a lot of impurities. Even people who don't know stone can see that it is two completely different kinds of stone.
I'm convinced.
The monk of Yuanyingjing gawked at the stone for a moment and threw a fist at Yi Tian. Yi Daoyu is so divine.
If you have anything else to do, please feel free to order. Yi Tian waved his hand. I don't need it now.
At this time, several other groups of friars sent by Yi Tian also came to answer their orders one after another. They all finished the excavation task according to Yi Tian's instructions. The Marquis of Lanling feels even more magical in his heart. Yi Tian seems to have inadvertently assigned tasks, but the friars of these teams almost agree to complete their respective tasks in time, and there is no delay due to the delay of the progress of any team. This kind of calculation ability is not due to the high level of cultivation. How did Yi Tian do it? The Marquis of Lanling was more curious. It's time to lay a layer of stone on the ground. At this time, Yi Tian released the task again. The friars who dug the rocks immediately took out the neatly cut rocks, and all the friars immediately started to lay the rocks in the broad stone trough cut out of the original Huajia pool. More than an hour later, a new Huajia pool has been laid, just encircling the original Huajia pool, like an irregular hui. Yi Daoyu, I'm waiting for the water to come back. Just at this time, the group of friars sent to fetch water from the underpass entered the Huajia pool. The new pool is full of water. It's 5 feet 8 inches deep. Yi Tian closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them again, he said decisively. The 30 monks immediately took out a lot of Shumi commandments and distributed them to other monks. They poured water into the newly excavated pool together. One of them measured the depth of 5 feet and 8 inches, and drew marks with magic weapons as marks. More than 200 monks participated in the water injection. The water was poured from all directions together, and the water in the originally empty Huajia pool gradually increased. At a glance, a vast underground lake has been formed, which is nearly 100 times larger than the original Huajia lake. From the moment of water injection, Yi Tian stopped talking. Instead, he stood by the side of the pool and observed silently. Sometimes he closed his eyes and pondered, sometimes he even stared at the stones at the bottom of the pool, as if he wanted to see through the bottom of the pool. The water injection process lasted for more than an hour until it reached the height of 5 feet and 8 inches according to Yi Tian's instructions. Finally, Yi Tian turned around and left the position he was just in. Yi Xiaoyu, what's the effect? The Marquis of Lanling walked over anxiously and asked. Yi Tian smiles, and his expression is still very indifferent. Don't worry, Marquis. In 7 days, this pool of fresh water will become a robbery. However, in 7 days' time, the effect of water robbing can only keep the breath of water robbing from spreading, that is to say, it can control the continuous erosion of breath of water robbing. After 14 days, you can slowly dispel the breath of destruction. 21 days later, the new pool will be transformed into the original one. After that, the effect of water melting and robbing will continue to rise. After 49 days, the effect of water melting and robbing in the new pool will be 3 times as much as that of the original one. 3 times? The Marquis of Lanling almost exclaimed, Are you sure it's 3 times as fast as the original to melt and rob the breath? It's not all about the speed of looting. Yi Tian shakes his head. The reason why the friar looks weak after the looting is that the breath of looting will cause certain damage to the friar, and the other is that the water of looting and the breath of looting carry out an invisible battle with the friar's body as the battlefield, causing damage to the friar's body again. Therefore, the friar who looks good originally is in good condition, he was weak when he entered the pool. With the increase of the speed of looting, the process is greatly shortened. The damage caused by the monk's body will be reduced to the minimum, and the recovery cycle will be greatly shortened. With the help of the following prescription, the damage caused by the breath of looting to the friars of the human race will not greatly affect the strength of the human race. 749 days? Can we really achieve this effect in such a short time? The Marquis of Lanling doesn't believe his ears. It's only a few days. It's nothing to the Terran. But as Yi Tian said, the Terran will never be afraid in the face of looting. Let's wait and see. At this time, Yi Tian knew that no matter how to guarantee it, it was just empty talk, so he didn't say more. Well, the Terran friars are waiting for the good news from Yi Xiaoyu. Marquis Lanling was also well aware of the truth, but just now he lost his composure because he was involved in the robbery. Now that he was sober, he nodded his head. More than 600 friars around hear the dialogue between Yi Tian and Marquis Lanling, and they are all excited. This newly built Huajia pool is so large that if it works as Yi Tian said, it will save countless lives. Even the monks who took part in the construction of the new pool did not dare to guarantee that they would be infected with the smell of plunder in the future, which was equivalent to building a plunder pool to save their own lives. Marquis, next, we need to go back to the wilderness and build another chemical robbery pool there. At this time, Yi Tian is still very sober, and the main task is to build the Huaca pool in the Monuan. The Huaca pool expanded here is just because of the hollowing out of the rocks, and the naturally occurring trough can be easily built.
Otherwise, the excavated space will not be wasted. Well, then we'll be ready to start.
You wait here to save the pool. Lan Linghoshan said. After that, Yi Tian took back the excavated rocks and left here with him. Out of the ground, the Marquis of Lanling still takes Yi Tian to perform the move skill. In a few ups and downs, he has returned to the wilderness again. At this time, the wilderness has become a huge battlefield. Yi Tian and the Marquis of Lanling stand on a mountain peak and look into the distance. Under the cover of gods, more than 300 miles away, countless human friars urge the magic stone, and the evil spirit is mixed in the dark fog.
The boundless dark fog is slowly retreating. It worked!
As long as the magic stone is enough, it can drive the underworld out for a long distance, and then it will be difficult for the underworld to cross this border. Feeling the fierce spectacle on the battlefield, which can almost be described as shaking the world, Yi Tian sighed. Hearing the words, the Marquis of Lanling took a deep look at Yi Tian and said, I can't imagine that Yi Dao's idea is so powerful.
Ordinary monks and longmen can't feel such a long distance. In any way, you are the most powerful monk in the same realm. Let me say something else. The leader of Yen Alliance attaches great importance to you, and the Terran also attaches great importance to you. In the future, once the Terran in the Wasteland spiritual realm encounters a crisis, if the Taoist friends can take care of the old situation, please lend a helping hand and lead the Terran out of the disaster. Yi Tian said with a bitter smile. The Marquis thinks much of Yi Tian.
Yi Tian is just a cultivation of Longmen realm. If there is a place where Yi Tian is needed in the field or on the Dan road, Yi Tian is bound to do so.
But if you want to lead the Terran, how can Yi Tian dare to think so?
The Marquis of Lanling shook his head slightly. Yi Daoyu doesn't have to belittle himself. I don't mean to lead the Terran out of the disaster. In the future, Yi Daoyu's achievements will certainly surpass those of the leader of Yen Alliance, which is what the leader of Yen Alliance said personally. Maybe Yi Xiaoyu will go beyond the spiritual realm one day and go to that legendary place. At that time, it is only Yi Xiaoyu's idea to help the people in the spiritual realm. And many years later, we old guys may have become a pile of dead bones, but the Terran still has to continue hearing the speech, Yi Tian said. Yi Tian especially admires Yen Alliance leader, Marquis and the predecessors of the great wilderness spiritual realm for their hard work for the human race. Let alone to what extent Yi Tian will reach in the future. If the human race of the great wilderness spiritual realm is in trouble, Yi Tian will naturally stand up and help.
This is my solemn promise.
What's more, after the next contest, I may become the son of Longmen.
I, Yi Tian, can't just enjoy the resources of the Terran in the great wilderness and ignore the safety of the Terran.
After listening to Yi Tian's words, the Marquis of Lanling looks like one of the pines. We all value Yi Xiaoyu's character very much, and we believe your promise. It's very difficult for the human race in the great wilderness spirit realm.
Ye's words must be true.
Please rest assured. Now it's time to build a chemical robbery pool here.
Yi Tian reminds away at this time.
Well, everything is up to you.
Let's do it now. I'm ready for you.
Lan Lingho finished, took out a message, no message, directly inspired out.
Yi Tian didn't say much. He opened his mind and looked around. After a moment, he moved and flew to the east.
Then the Marquis of Lanling moved and followed. After flying for about 10 miles, Yi Tian stayed on a vast plateau.
Yuan Tian's eyes looked at it carefully, and said to the Marquis of Lanling, the Huajia pool is chosen here.
The terrain here is quite high, and the water quality is not easy to be polluted.
The mountains are made of stone, and the Huajia water does not penetrate into the ground.
The key is that it is close to the underworld. In the future, we may continue to use the method of robbing embers to block the underworld. It's the most convenient place to remove the breath of robbing here. Lan Lingho also observed for a while, and said, Yi Xiaoyu is very considerate.
Everything is arranged by you.
Yi Tian nodded slightly, said no more, and began to observe the topography of the plateau and calculate silently. At this time, a lot of dark shadows appeared in the western sky, and they were driving the light to this side quickly.
Yi Tian suddenly noticed and looked over there.
Well, it's the man I called to help you build the Huajie pool. The Marquis of Lanling had already known who was coming, so he explained in a soft voice.
So much? Seeing the number of these people, Yi Tian was a little surprised.
Through visual inspection, there were at least more than 3,000 monks coming.
Only when there are enough people can we schedule. What we want is speed. These people are all local people.
Yi Xiaoyu can schedule at will.
Lan Lingho said solemnly again. Yi Tian knows. Yi Tian answered and continued to observe the terrain. Soon, those friars have come near.
Yi Tian unexpectedly finds an acquaintance in the crowd, that is, Xiao Yunxian, the female guide who participated in the Dragon's Gate Saint Sun qualification test in Wanlagu.
Yi Daoyu, let's meet again.
Xiao Yunxian came out of the crowd, arranged her dress, swept the broken hair in front of her forehead, and said hello to Yi Tian with a smile.
It's Xiao Daoyu. You're all right.
Yi Tianlu clasped his fist and said hello, but he found that there were many different expressions in her eyes. Yi Tian pretends not to know and bows to the coming monks. This is a hard time for you Taoist friends.
Ask Yi Daoyu to tell me.
These friars should have been ordered by the Marquis of Lanling for a long time.
They directly asked Yi Tian for instructions. Well, time is urgent. Let's start now.
Yi Tianli was not polite anymore, so he went directly to the theme. 2 days later, a huge robbing pool with a radius of tens of miles on the vast plateau had been formed, and some monks were pouring water from the nearby lakes into it. The Huaca pool goes deep into the interior of the plateau, forming a shape similar to concave. The height of the drop from the highest part of the plateau is almost 45 feet, and the distance from the lowest part is also 2 or 3 meters.
This arrangement is to prevent the overflow of the Huaca pool.
The whole Huaca pool is built with mountain stones and bottom stones. The proportion of the two kinds of stones is carefully calculated by Yi Tian, which can maximize the effect of Huaca. Although the amount of water injected is extremely huge, it can't stand the joint efforts of more than 3,000 monks. The clear water of the lake continuously poured out from the Shumi commandment. The water level in the Huajie pool gradually increased, reflecting the blue sky and white clouds, but it also became a beautiful scenery on the plateau. The water level is getting higher and higher, gradually approaching the 6'3" water level given by Yi Tian. Just at this time, the Lanling Marquis next to Yi Tian was suddenly shocked and took out a message. A burning voice came out of the message, Lanling Marquis, come to support quickly. There is a high-level secret cultivation, and no one can resist it. The fellow is badly injured. After the sound came out, the messenger turned into a flame and burned to ashes. The Marquis of Lanling took a look at the gradually completed Huajie pool, then looked at Yi Tian, and said, Yi Xiaoyu, I'll go to support you. After the completion of Huajie pool, you leave by yourself. You must pay attention to your own safety. Then he looked at the 3,000 monks who were pouring water. His voice was quiet and he ordered, everyone, it's time to fight. With that, the figure has disappeared from the original place. Yi Tian let go of his mind, but he could not feel the situation on the battlefield within the scope of his mind. In 2 days, the Terran friars forced the demons back at least 200 or 300 miles by virtue of the magic stone. This distance is beyond the scope of Yi Tianshenian's investigation. Yan Lai's herald makes Yi Tian feel tight. If it's not the time to be in a hurry, Yan Lai will never take away the Lanling Marquis who was responsible for building and robbing the pool. It can be imagined that Yan Lai must have been entangled by the same realm of meditation, and the number of demons equivalent to the great friars of the human Jade Pu realm is so large that the great friars of the human race are not enough. After pondering for a moment, Yi Tian said to the monks who were pouring water, you Taoist friends, just pour water strictly according to the water level line, and stop at the line. You went to the battlefield to have a look. Yi Daoyu, wait a minute.
Just as Yi Tian's words came out, Xiao Yunxian, the female nun, suddenly stood in front of Yi Tian's body in a flash, and said fiercely, "Just when the Marquis left, he told Yi Daoyu to leave by himself after he finished the chemical robbery pool. You should pay attention to your own safety. This is not only for you, but also for us. We should protect Yi Daoyu's safety. It's extremely dangerous on the battlefield. Even the predecessors of Washenjing and Yuanyingjing may fall at any time. Yi Daoyu is just a monk in Longmen realm. Even if he goes, how much can he do? Can the war between the Terran and the underworld change the outcome because of your participation?" Xiao Yinxian's every word is aimed at stimulating Yi Tian. How can Yi Tian not understand the meaning of her words? In fact, the words that Marquis Lanling said when he left didn't mean to let everyone protect himself, just simply told himself. These friars are going to the battlefield immediately. It is impossible for them to take out their hands to protect themselves. Every sentence Xiao Yunxian said is her own meaning. Although it's hard to hear, the meaning of maintenance is extremely obvious. Moreover, Yi Tian also heard that these words were really in her mind. Yes. I'm just a monk in Longmen realm. In a war in which the monks in Huashan realm and Yuanying realm may fall at any time, what kind of waves can I turn up as a monk in Longmen realm? What can even the strongest monk in Longmen realm do? Even if it can be selected as the first Dragon's Gate saint, what can it be? Can you compare with monk Yuanying? Godlike friar? Yi Tian believes that not only Xiao Yunxian thinks so, but also the other monks on the scene, because they don't think they want to go to the battlefield. Because there are more than 100 monks in Yuanyingjing who came to build Huajia Pool. The other friar's cultivation of the realm is the Golden Elixir realm. Lanlinghao did not take anyone with him when he left. This means that even the Marquis of Lanling believed that even the monks with more than 3,000 elixirs could not have any influence on the war situation in this massive battle between the Terran and the underworld. However, Yi Tian doesn't think so, because he has the advantage that other friars don't have, and the fierce flying sword in Shumi commandment is still buzzing and shaking. In the face of Xiao Yunxian's question, Yi Tian just smiles back, but doesn't say a word more. His figure has turned into a light of escape and shot to the eastern battlefield. Seeing this, Xiao Yunxian is in a big hurry and goes after Yi Tian with his sword. He just moves. He suddenly remembers that his sword is flying by leaps and bounds after Yi Tian's advice. He can't catch up with Yi Tian with his own speed. At this time, Yi Tian's speed has disappeared from the public sight. When Yi Tian flies more than 200 li, his gesture moves, and the fierce sword suddenly appears in his hand. Then he moves again, and the face mask also appears in his hand. The mask is as thin as a cicada's wing and soft in texture. When Yi Tian holds it with his left hand, he is already lying in his hands without any trace. Then the streamer flashed away to the battlefield. After the Dragon's Gate competition ended, Yi Tian took pills in the Time and Space Tower and practiced hard for several days. Although his realm still stays in the late stage of the Dragon's Gate realm and is far away from the peak of the Dragon's Gate realm, his strength has improved again, which is not comparable to that of the Jin dynasty. Hundreds of miles away, it doesn't take long for Yi Tian to pass by, and the battlefield is far away. There are countless Terran and underworld armies in the whole battlefield. The battlefield is more than 10 miles in length. In this distance, there are two armies fighting hard. Horizontally, the two sides are also endless, and I don't know where they extend. It's impossible to see how many people participated in the war just by the naked eye. The battlefield has been far away from the scope of the dark fog. A large number of the dark cultivation use the body and bones to fight, and there are not a few who directly use the skeleton and bones to fight. It's very easy to distinguish the dead breath from those who use the body and bones. The friars who used to urge the magic stone had to interrupt the urge of the magic chi and directly participated in the hand-to-hand fight. The massive magic chi neutralized the fog before, which made the underworld feel a great threat. They had to get rid of the fog, which helped them a lot, and fight with the friars outside the sea of fog. On the ground and high in the air, there are many figures of the human friars and the dark friars everywhere. Every second, a large number of friars from both sides fall, and then annihilate in the boundless battlefield, leaving only countless bones, which shows the cruelty of the war. On the high sky, Yi Tian can feel the places where his sight can't reach,
and there are countless strong breath, which makes a rumbling sound from time to time. It should be the battlefield of the Great Friar. Yen Lion Lanling Marquis must be high above the sky. Yi Tian was flying, and he had already seen the situation in the battlefield. Body shaped like a pop star, straight to the battlefield. Yi Tianxiao, back quickly, this is not what you can participate in. Seeing the edge of the battlefield, Yi Tian suddenly heard a loud drink. Eyes turn, Yi Tian followed the voice to see, but see the person who shouts is actually the Yin City Lord who proposes to himself. This man is fighting against two powerful meditation practitioners with one man's strength. The fight is very fierce. Yi Tian does not retreat, but advances. As soon as he turns, he goes to the direction of the Lord of Yin City. At the same time, the power of thunder and lightning on Yi Tian's body keeps flashing, just like the incarnation of the god of thunder and lightning. Lei Shu. Almost at the same time, Yi Tian yelled, and the powerful thunder and lightning fell on the bones along the way. In the terrible thunder, no one noticed that the invisible electric light in the grimace mask tightly held by Yi Tian's left hand suddenly scattered several small thunders to the nearby bones. Boom! 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 Almost at the same time, several powerful explosions were heard, and the bodies and bones that were attacked by the electric arc exploded, and the broken limbs and meat splashed everywhere with the strong explosion. But the Leaf Day is to ignore this, still full of electric arc ground to fly to the location of Yin City Lord. Along the way, the electric arc flickered and the sound of bombardment kept ringing, which was quite different from the previous battlefield. This situation attracted the attention of monks from both sides nearby. On the surface, Yi Tian just sent out the powerful thunder attribute Taoist art, and instantly killed the powerful physical body and bone demon cultivation. No one found that, in fact, what plays an absolute role is the grimace mask held by Yi Tian in his hand. This makes some powerful Terran friars feel both excited and ashamed. Yi Xiaoyu, don't come here. These two are the gods of the underworld. Seeing that Yi Tian is carrying a flashing electric arc, he rushes here from time to time, waving his flying sword. The Lord of Yin City entangles the two demons with a fierce attack, and shows his warning to Yi Tian again. What can hell do? Yi Tianling drinks a, unexpectedly the body shape flashed to the front, in the mouth big drinks a, thunder. Yi Tian knew that the god of the underworld was equivalent to the cultivation of the human friars, but so what? Yi Tian gave them a hand. More than a dozen thick arcs fell to the two gods for a short time. He had found a rule that the more powerful the magical cultivation was, the stronger the explosive force of the purple and gold runes in the flesh and bones was. Whether it's the ordinary purple gold rune or the powerful purple gold rune, the invisible arc emitted by the grimace mask has the same detonating ability. Sia full of arc, the realm of low Terran friars unexpectedly unknowingly attacked themselves. One of the gods suddenly pointed to Yi Tian, a silver white bone gun shot to Yi Tian. The silver bone gun radiates a dazzling silver light. It grows bigger in a flash, and turns into 3 feet long. It seems to be able to destroy everything. In a flash, it's in front of Yi Tian. Yen Cheng's idea is startled. A magic power is turned into a white beam and twinkles around the white bone gun. But he moves a little slower. When the white beam is sent out, the huge bone gun with a terrible smell can hit Yi Tian's chest. It's over. When Lord Yin exclaimed to himself, Yi Tian's body suddenly flashed in his sight. It was like a wisp of wind. He retreated with the huge attack of Bone Spear, and then somehow he got out of the attack range of Bone Spear. At this time, the two gods almost simultaneously sent out a terrible roar. At the next moment, the two gods made a huge noise. The two gods, without exception, turned into countless pieces of meat in the fierce explosion and splashed everywhere, covering a large distance around. Even the noumenon of the two gods failed to escape the impact of the explosion, turned into a wisp of smoke, and disappeared in the world. Seeing this, the master of Yin City looks at Yi Tian in a hurry. He sees that the place where Yi Tian's flying sword points to is the explosion place of the two Hades. There are many small electric arcs twinkling on the red and black sword. And Yi Tian's whole body is intact, and it seems that he has not been injured at all. Yi Xiaoyu. You. The Lord of Yin City was shocked beyond description. Before he finished a word, Yi Tian's body flashed towards the deep battlefield. Along the way, he sent out a terrible ray attribute Taoist art. All the nearby bodies and bones were destroyed by his thunder and turned into countless pieces of meat. The spirit of Lord Yan was one of the shocks. He put away the shock in his heart. As soon as he looked around the battlefield, he flashed towards a battle group. There, two Hades were fighting against one of the same people. Yi Tian is killing Mingxiu, who lives in the flesh and bones all the way. His momentum is like a rainbow and he is invincible. His short contact with two Hades has greatly increased his confidence. Although the Hades is equivalent to the cultivation of the human spirit realm, second only to the Hades, even the Hades are hard to match under the powerful lethality of the Grimace mask. What's more, Yi Tian repeatedly felt the ghost mask in his hand. After many invisible arcs, the ghost mask didn't seem to change at all. Each arc had the same power, and there was no sign of power reduction. It seems that this strange mask of Grimace can emit this kind of arc that detonates purple and gold runes infinitely. Yi Tian judges like this, but at present, the use frequency of Grimace mask is still too few, and the specific situation still needs to be explored and verified in the future. But now, Yi Tian has no time to take too much into account. He occasionally turns into a breeze in the battlefield and suddenly disappears out of thin air. The target of each attack is the powerful body and bones. He doesn't dare to be invisible for too much time, because all kinds of attacks in the battlefield almost cover all the nearby space. If he is invisible for a long time, the attack by mistake will bring him a lot of trouble. At least when showing the status of the Terran friars, their fellow disciples will not attack themselves, so they can fight against the dark cultivation with all their strength. Yi Tian also tries to avoid fighting with some white bones and skeletons. Such opponents are very troublesome. Although Yi Tian is not afraid, he can't kill them as quickly as he does with flesh and bones, wasting precious time. Only when the Terran friar was in a crisis of life and death, could he give a little help. What Yi Tian has to deal with is not only the spiritual cultivation, but also the powerful spiritual cultivation. It's not long. Under Yi Tian's rapid attack, the number of dead and injured Hades has reached 100. At this time, Yi Tian felt the Grimace mask in his left hand again, but he still didn't find any difference. When the arc came out, there was no reduction of power, so he gradually relaxed. In this small battlefield area, because Yi Tian joined, the morale of the Terran friars soared. Those who were born because their opponents were killed by Yi Tian were looking for new opponents or helping others. The power balance between the two sides was rapidly changing. After Yi Tian killed an emperor of the underworld again, he swept his eyes slightly, moved his body, and flew to the underworld, who was fighting with a monk in the spirit-transforming realm in the distance. That dark god has noticed the situation of Yi Tian for a long time. Seeing that Yi Tian is coming to him, the dark god suddenly flashes, quickly leaves the regiment and retreats to the east. He doesn't even have the courage to fight with Yi Tian. Before, he had seen that Yi Tian almost killed Mingxiu, and the electric arc fell down, and no Mingxiu could escape from him. The monk nodded slightly to Yi Tian, and a black gun in his hand shot out in a flash, which exploded a white skeleton not far away. Then he reached out for a black gun and launched an attack on other Mingxiu. The spirit of the underworld people was greatly affected by the escape of the underworld god without fighting. Under the situation that the enemy was strong and we were weak, the underworld cultivation in this area began to flee, and the boundless underworld cultivation began to leave the battlefield and flee in the direction of the underworld fog. The morale of the Terran friars is unprecedented, and countless figures are pursuing and killing each other. Seeing that the situation here has been settled, Yi Tian doesn't follow the chase, but flies to a distant battlefield. Yi Xiaoyu, Yan is ordered to protect you. And the only task is to protect you. Next to him, a figure flashed by, and the figure of Lord Yan emerged and said aloud. Yi Tian nodded slightly, didn't say anything, and continued to shoot to the distance. He knew that this order should have been given by the great friars at the level of princes, or maybe by Yan Lai himself. Such a big movement on his side must have attracted the attention of the high level of the Terran and the underworld. Even if he wanted to refuse, the Lord of Yan might not be able to listen to it, so he would not waste his time talking nonsense. In this way, a strange scene appeared in the battlefield. A Dragon's Gate monk with electric arc all over his body slashes and kills him. He is invincible and destroys him. Wherever he goes, those who live in the flesh and bones explode. However, there was a monk in the Dragon's Gate realm who followed him. He seldom killed the enemy, but he just tried his best to protect the monk in the Dragon's Gate realm.
Yi Tian, that's Yi Tian. In the middle of the battle, there were shouts. Yi Tian's name is booming in the field of wilderness.
Most of the monks may not have seen Yi Tian, but few of them have not heard of Yi Tian.
The first Dragon's Gate son. Sure enough, some people know that some legends of Yi Tian have not been determined yet, and the title of belonging has been called out.
In this regard, Yi Tian just a little smile, mind open, source sky eye shine through, to the distance of a fierce battle is in full swing area.
Lei Shu. Lei Shu. Lei Shu. Yi Tian bumps all the way, and keeps drinking loudly in his mouth.
Every time he cheers, the thunder will fall. Some white bones and skeletons, whose accomplishments are not so high, are directly penetrated into the crevice of the skeleton by Yi Tian's amazing thunder, and instantly kill the Numenon. Under the cover of Lei Shu's Taoist art, the hell practitioners who lived in the flesh and bones were smashed and fell on the spot by the electric arc of the grimace mask detonating the purple and gold runes in their bodies. Up to now, not only the Terran friars, but also the Ming Xiu didn't know about the invisible arc on the grimace mask. They all thought that Yi Tian was just a kind of Taoist art. He was extremely powerful.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
Yi Tian, whose body is twinkling with electric arc, uses the Taoist art of thunder to rush to the fiercest part of the battlefield. Where he passes, the thunder keeps falling, and all the flesh and bones within a few feet around him explode. This kind of situation makes Yi Tian like killing gods, forming a strong aura, which makes many Ming Xiu who are in the fierce battle avoid pestilence, and avoid them far away, for fear that they will be destroyed.
On the contrary, Lord Yan, who has the ability to transform the divine realm, follows Yi Tian as if he had become a decoration.
Except for occasionally killing some of the surrounding spiritual practitioners, Yi Tian has never been out of danger.
It's not that Yi Tian didn't make a move in time, but that he didn't have a chance. Those practices didn't threaten Yi Tian's safety at all.
At this time, Yi Tian's speed is very fast. After killing the 4 gods with the help of the mask, he suddenly flies to a certain battlefield. Along the way, naturally, there was a roaring explosion. The invisible arc emitted by the grimace mask formed a situation of second killing the flesh and bones of the underworld. Everywhere they went, the underworld repairs suffered a disaster.
Boom boom.
In the sound of successive explosions, Yi Tian comes to a human friar who is in a precarious situation, and hits a white skeleton not far away with a ray of Taoist art. The lightning suddenly changes its shape like a spirit snake, and penetrates into the crevice of the skeleton, killing the body of the spiritual cultivation in the skeleton.
Yi Dao Yu. The opponent was removed by Yi Tian in a flash.
The friar swept the broken hair on his forehead and showed a smile. I didn't expect you to be so powerful.
I'm sorry that people were worried about you for nothing.
The nun's voice is sweet and graceful, but she looks like Xiao Yunshen, who built Huajie Pool with Yi Tian.
Yi Tianlu nodded and didn't say a word more.
Then he moved again, and several thunders fell again. At the moment of no time, he killed 5 flesh and bones in the realm of the Demon Emperor, and saved 2 Yuan Jing monks who were about to suffer from the disaster of life and death.
Thank you, Yi Dao Yu.
The 2 men threw a fist at Yi Tianlu, and then jumped to one side again, fighting with the other underworld. These friars are part of the 3,000 people who built Huajie Pool with Yi Tian. Soon after Yi Tian left, Huajie Pool had been filled with water. They followed the orders of the Marquis of Lanling and rushed to the battlefield. They joined the army of human friars and fought with the underworld. Because the number is far more than that of the Terran friars, the army of the underworld is taking an advantage. But because it is fighting outside the fog, the action of the underworld has been greatly suppressed.
This advantage is not so obvious.
Generally speaking, it can be maintained within a certain balance. Occasionally, some bones and skeletons come out of the fog to support, but they can't support it for long, so they have to return to the fog. Otherwise, without the protection of the fog, their own strength will be difficult to play, and the self-cultivation will become relatively weak. Unless some of them can snatch the corpses of the human friars and turn them into their own flesh and bones, the fierce battle in the state of white bones and skeletons will inevitably end in a fall. The monks who can fight outside the dark fog for a long time are those who have their own flesh and bones, so they will be less affected. At present, more than 3,000 monks who built Huajia Pool with Yi Tian are mixed up in many Terran armies to fight against the underworld.
Many monks have been in danger.
Yi Tian saw them before, so he rushed here to support them. After all, these friars followed him for 2 days to build Huajia Pool. They were very familiar with each other.
Boom! Boom! Yi Tian's mind covers the surroundings. His body is like fog and electricity.
He comes and goes like flying.
There are thunders and lightning everywhere he passes. The sound of explosion is incessant.
Many underworld people's bodies and bones burst out one after another. The scene is extremely spectacular.
The city master Yan, who followed Yi Tian, was shocked.
The speed of killing the underworld by this method was much faster than that of his own monk.
Is this really a monk in Longmen?
Not only he, but also other friars have the same feeling. Looking at Yi Tian's back, many friars are stunned for a few breaths. Then someone says, our generation of friars in Jindan realm are so weak that they need Longmen friars to come to rescue. It's really a shame for friars in Jindan to kill. I don't know which monk is speaking, however, this remark aroused a great resonance. The nearby monks of Jindan Kingdom attacked the underworld like chicken blood. At this moment, the momentum of the Terran immediately soared, and many monks followed Yi Tian's figure, as if forming a torrent. They made a deep breakthrough into the battlefield, and all the way, they were shocked to pieces.
The monks of Yuanying were also stimulated. The monks of Longmen took the lead, followed by the monks of Jindan.
It seemed that the monks of Yuanying, who had a higher level, were in a steady state.
At this time, many monks in Yuanying were not willing to fall behind.
They broke out the strong atmosphere of their origins and launched a fierce attack on the underworld. They attacked more and defended less. Such a reckless play just restrained the attack of the underworld. In a short time, they beat the underworld in this area to pieces.
Lord Yan, now you should believe that I have the power to protect myself?
Yi Tian once again killed several Mingxiu who were attached to the body and bones, and turned to the Lord Yan.
Yi Xiaoyu, I know, but it's hard to die.
The Lord of Yan said helplessly.
Then fight side by side.
Yi Tian knows that persuading is also a waste of words, so he says cheerfully.
Fight side by side.
Yan City Master haha smile, completely put down Yi Tian's safety, and Yi Tian forward together. He is very clear in the heart, with Yi Tian's means, if he encounters danger and can't help himself, I'm afraid his hand is useless. In this way, a stone in his heart fell to the ground. Once the master of Yen City made a move, he no longer had any scruples. They joined hands and were invincible in many practices. However, after a while, Lord Yen was shocked to find that although he tried his best, the speed of killing Mingxiu was far less than that of Yi Tian. When Yi Tian had killed 6 or 7 Mingxiu in the realm of the Underworld Emperor, he could only kill 2 or 3 people himself. When Yi Tian killed 3 or 4 of them, he was still fighting with a certain god. Instead, Yi Tian came to help kill his opponent, which made him barely keep up with Yi Tian's pace and start the journey of fighting side by side again. However, gradually, Lord Yen felt that he was unable to do as he wanted. His speed was not as fast as that of Yi Tian, and there was a lot of resistance. At a certain moment, after he was entangled by a ghost, Yi Tian didn't come to the rescue in time, but chose to rescue several nearby monks facing the crisis of life and death. Those friars in the Golden Elixir realm are being repaired by more than 10 underworld-level flesh and bones. They are in a precarious situation.
Yi Tian's figure comes to him in a flash.
As the thunder falls, the underworld people explode at almost the same time.
But Yi Tian looked at the Lord of Yen, who was more than 10 feet away. He was fighting with him.
There was no danger at the moment, so he rushed to one side and killed him.
The place is still boom continuous body bone popping sound.
In this battlefield, Yi Tian became an extremely different existence, just like the god of pestilence.
Wherever he went, Mingxiu scrambled to flee. If he didn't rush, he couldn't get rid of his fate.
With the increasing time of Yi Tian's participation in the war, the decline of the Terran monk was saved by his own efforts, and began to fight back in a large area.
Yi Tian can't remember how many underworld people he killed, thousands or even tens of thousands of them.
He has never counted them in detail, but all the monks in the underworld and below are
second killed. Yi Tian hasn't seen the level of Mingzuan and Mingdi.
He doesn't know the specific situation. As the war continued, the number of Meisho killed by Yi Tian increased rapidly, and the morale of the human race rose unprecedentedly. Meisho gradually could not resist and began to retreat. The effect of Yi Tian is not only to save some human friars, or to kill a large number of the underworld, but also to bring a sense of deterrence and psychological oppression. Mingxiu knows that Yi Tian's cultivation is not high, but his lethality is so strong that no physical and bony Mingxiu can take the second move under him. All of them are thunder. After the Taoist art, they explode and die, and even the essence of meditation can't escape.
Invincible. Can't compete.
Yi Tian gave such a signal to those who had seen him display his divine power.
This kind of spiritual encouragement is even more effective than the reinforcement of 10,000 monks.
10,000 monks are just a drop in the ocean compared with this battlefield, but the spiritual encouragement is the overall situation. The fighting power that each human friar can break out will be rapidly improved because of this kind of encouragement, and then expressed in the fighting power. As a result, the battlefield situation gradually reversed. I don't know when, and I don't know whether the ghost opponent of Lord Yen was killed or defeated. In a word, Lord Yen followed up and chased Yi Tian. After the Lord of Yen City, a lot of human friars gathered and killed along with Yi Tian. This team is gradually expanding, from hundreds of people to thousands of people, and then from thousands to thousands and tens of thousands, finally forming a team of tens of thousands.
Yi Tian takes the lead and rushes where the fight is most fierce.
Under his leadership, the whole team is like an invincible sword, fighting left and right in the battlefield, invincible.
Such a momentum is like a turbulent sea. Suddenly, a huge torrent surges into the sea, which stimulates a huge wave. Wherever the team goes, it is defeated, and it is dead and wounded in an instant. Yi Tian, in particular, didn't care about the team behind him.
Although he started at the flesh and bones, everywhere he went, there was a loud noise, and the flesh and tarsals were all destroyed. At a certain moment, Yi Tian's heart suddenly moved and released his newly captured 100 4th-order peak monsters and more than 200 3rd-order peak monsters to fight with him. The fighting power of these monsters is of course negligible in this huge war, which has nothing to do with the overall situation. However, a moment later, when Ming Xiu, who is still fighting in front of him, can no longer verify the origin of these monsters, Yi Tian suddenly yelled, "Fellow members, the Terran and the Orcs unite to destroy the underworld, and the first allies of the Orcs have arrived, the horde of Orcs will come later." In this way, although it is said to the friars of the human race on the surface, the real intention is to scare the underworld. More than 300 monsters rolled in with Yi Tian, and it seemed that their momentum was not small. This move is really effective. The spirit of the unknown Terran friars is shocked. There is no time to think about when the Terran and Orc are so friendly. Just urge all strength, launched a crazy chase to the underworld. In front of the underworld, the appearance of these monsters not only represents the hundreds of monsters themselves. The underworld can understand the language of the human race. Yi Tian's voice spreads far away, which makes the nearby Ming Xiuzhen think that the human race and the Orc are allied. At least, there are some meditations with doubts. Seeing that the Terrans and the Orcs join hands to kill, there may be more Orcs coming. The momentum in Mingxiu's heart has lost, and he has no desire to fight. The strategy works. But Yi Tian didn't pay attention to anymore. Although he took the demons and beasts under his command to fight forward, behind him was the Terran army, which had reached nearly 100,000 scale, and swept away to the distant battlefield from a wide distance. At this time, Yi Tian didn't know how big the battlefield was. The first 300 li and the last 300 li were the battlefields of fierce fighting between the two sides, which seemed endless. After another 300 or 400 miles, under the cover of gods in front of us, we still can't feel the end of the battlefield. On the ground, there are countless white bones, as well as the corpses of countless human friars or the flesh bones of the underworld. However, for either side, the sudden arrival of more than 100,000 monks will make the other side crush.
Yi Tian's army is just like this.
The boundless Terran army, as well as hundreds of monsters, has brought fatal impact to the underworld. In some areas where the underworld amendment had the upper hand, the underworld began an irresistible rout because of the arrival of this army.
The reinforcements of 1U League are coming.
The alliance of Terran and Orc is coming to support in the army. Some friars understood Yi Tian's intention and made such a cry everywhere, which brought great pressure to the underworld. 100 Li, 200 Li, 300 Li. Yi Tian's army quickly pushed forward to the side of the battlefield, almost sweeping away the meditation wherever he went. The Terran friars who were supported by the army and were able to escape also joined the army. As the army continued to move forward, the army is growing. From 100,000 to 150,000 to 200,000.
300,000. Yi Tian doesn't know whether there are 300,000 or not.
In a word, there are a lot of people, just like a huge wave, carrying the wave sweeping all over the world and drowning the underworld army.
Ka ka ka. The powerful thunder blooms everywhere.
Wherever Yi Tian's body goes, there is thunder roaring, and then there is a roaring sound. The underworld's flesh and bones explode one after another. The Terran friars' counterattack was irresistible. Tens of thousands of feet above the air, this is another scene. Each of the 36 great friars headed by Yen Lai holds a mysterious and simple array flag, occupying 36 positions in Tiangang. The array flag is excited, forming an extremely strong field, in which nearly 100 high-level demon practitioners are trapped. The field is a transparent shield, which turns into a big ball in the sky. When the mana is input into the array flag, there will be light flashing on the shield. Inside the sphere, many of the strong men of the underworld had stopped attacking the shield. Instead, they faced the 36 great monks outside the shield.
Yen Lai, don't the human race always boast of being a gentleman? Don't you dare to let go of such despicable means?
Inside the shield, a tall, sallow, corpse-like Mashio asked angrily. Yen Lai was holding the array flag.
He didn't see any expression on his face. He just said faintly, "Jodo, don't talk about gentlemen and villains. You are not human at all.
Since you dare to come here, you should rely on your own abilities."
For countless years, the evil deeds of the underworld people have been very numerous. How about today's big loss? I tell you, this is the ancient strange array. Lock the sky array. Although I can't help you in the array, I'm afraid it's not so easy to come out.
The Jodo mentioned by Yen Lai is the supreme ruler of the underworld.
Zhu Yuming Emperor, and the other trapped underworld people are some of the underworld gods next only to Zhu Yuming Emperor.
Before, Yen Lai and others had a fierce fight with each other for a long time. Later, they found an opportunity to set up the Skylock array, and trap them. When Yi Tian just came to the battlefield, the huge roar he heard was the movement of the Ming practitioners attacking the shield of the lock array. The 9 Yuming emperors seemed to feel the situation on the battlefield below, and suddenly hummed, "Yen Lai, is the backhand you reserved the little monk? Do you think he alone can resist the endless army of the underworld?" Yen Lai hears that the 9 Yuming emperor says so, and suddenly laughs. He is not because of anything else, but because in this war, Yi Tian gives him a surprise again. Below the battlefield, he can see at a glance, Yi Tian's various performances are in his eyes. When he saw that the Terran friars were at a disadvantage with countless deaths and injuries, Yen Lai was very anxious. How could he trap the 9 Yuming emperor here? He had to be the great friar of the heavenly palace to personally preside over the urge of the lock sky array, otherwise he would not be able to trap the 9 Yuming emperor for long. Once these powerful spiritual practices come out, it will be a terrible catastrophe for the Terran friars.
Because at this time, it's no more than before.
In the past, the Terran friars were very scattered. Once the practice started, the Terran friars had enough time to react. But now countless friars of the human race gather on the battlefield. It's easy to kill the friars of the human race in a large area by means of these practices.
Just like Yen Lai himself, it's very easy to kill the low-level friars in batches by his accomplishments.
Because the 9th Yuming emperor also took this into consideration, he concentrated all the high-level meditation on this mission here, trying to attack the great friars of the murderers as much as possible. After all, the victory of a war is largely determined by the victory or defeat of the great friars. In fact, the purpose of the 9 Yuming emperor's myriad other practices is to kill the great friars of the human race, so as to disturb the mood of the great friars of the human race, so as to achieve the goal of killing the great friars of the killing race to the greatest extent. However, what he didn't expect was that the original plan had already been realized step by step. Suddenly, a low-level monk full of electric arc came out of the Terran friars, and he just destroyed his plan.
We'll see if we can stop it. Yan Lai was in a very good mood at this time.
He had trapped the 9 Yuming emperor and other powerful people of the underworld, and the Terran friars had not suffered too much. Moreover, the war situation was gradually developing to the benefit of the Terran. Of course, at the beginning of the war, no one thought that in the war of competing the strength of the two ethnic groups, the victory of the war was decided by the strength of the bottom. In the war at the bottom, Tian, who was the only one in Longmen, played a decisive role. Tian's various performances were almost beyond the limits of Yan Lai's imagination. No matter what, they didn't expect that Tian had achieved this degree with his own strength. From this, Yan Lai more and more believed that Taisui said, Tian will eventually surpass all the human friars and become the supreme existence. Originally, this supreme existence was on the Earth star, but for various reasons, it happened to come to the Great Wilderness spiritual realm and become a member of the Wanyu League. In the next step, it will become the first holy son of Longmen.
This is definitely the chance of the whole human race in the Great Wilderness. Under such circumstances, how could he not be in a good mood?
Yan Lai, I'll tell you that the reinforcements of the underworld will arrive soon. At that time, the Terran will still be defeated.
What can we do even if the Emperor is trapped here? Can you still kill this Emperor?
See burning fierce expression, 9 Yuming Emperor again cold Hama say.
Hearing this, Yan Lai laughed. Jodo, do you think the underworld have reinforcements? Don't Terrans have reinforcements? I can also tell you that the Terran reinforcements are on the way.
The Terran area is too wide, and it is not so convenient for the monks to mobilize. Although you have a large population of the underworld, the human race has a strong reproductive ability, and the cultivation talent of the human race is far from comparable to that of the underworld. Maybe for the time being, the Terran is still weak, but in the future, the underworld will become a stone at the foot of the Terran. It's better for you to live in peace with the underworld. If you have too much ambition, the underworld will be completely destroyed in your hands. 9 Yuming Emperor heard the speech and laughed. Haha, the ability of blowing cow skin is the most powerful.
I won't show you the benefit of words. The Great Wilderness spiritual realm is the Great Wilderness spiritual realm of everyone.
Since you are weak, you don't deserve to possess so many resources.
No matter how powerful you are in reproduction, you can't avoid extermination. What's more, I won't give you time to grow up. It's a pity that your appearance of Yan Lai is too short.
If you had appeared tens of thousands of years earlier, I would have believed that the human race would be gradually revitalized under your leadership. Unfortunately, for tens of thousands of years, the internal friction of the human race has been too big, and the cannibalism and intrigue have been the work of your people.
Unfortunately, you wake up too late.
However, Yan Lai frowned slightly and said, 9 Yuming Emperor, there is an old saying in the human race that it's not too late to mend after a sheep has died. The Terran has had an unbearable past, and it has also fought against each other, but now it has changed, and the Terran is not the same as it used to be.
It's not terrible to rob the embers.
If the underworld can swear to retreat, they will never invade again. The Terrans can help you through the disaster of looting embers. You know, the Terrans have found a way to deal with the disaster of looting embers. A little bit of looting embers is no big deal. Why do you have to ruin the lives of the two groups?
Yan Lai, can I see that you are showing weakness? Do you think Ben D is the big monkey of the White Ape Demon King?
Get a broken son, and you'll be held in your hands, and you'll swear that you won't invade again.
That thing is ringing there. How many sons do you want? I have to compromise with you. Yan Lai, you are dreaming. In a moment, my army will come.
Since you won't let us go out, let's watch a good play here.
9 Yuming Emperor face du disdain ground sneer way.
At this time, Yan Lai's face looks dignified. He has sensed that the reinforcements of the underworld have appeared in the scope of divine thoughts.
However, there is no sign of any reinforcements.
There is no way. The Terran has always been weaker than the underworld, but also to leave a part of the defense at the junction of the Terran and the demons, in case the demons suddenly attack. If it wasn't for the orcs who had made the pledge of blood, I'm afraid that the situation faced by the Terrans this time would be much more severe than the last 3 tribes' joint invasion. After all, last time, all the 3 groups had some reservations.
They didn't send too many troops.
No one wanted to be the main force of the coalition forces, and their strength was damaged.
We'll see. At this time, Yenlai didn't have much to do.
He had urged the reinforcements for no less than 10 times, but it really took some time for the Terran monks to mobilize, and it would certainly take more time for them to feel that they were far from the east.
There has been a messenger from the reinforcements. They are flying away in an emergency, but they can't use up all their mana in order to get on the way.
In that case, even if they get to the wilderness, they will have to be slaughtered. With this sentence, Yenlai's idea continued to cover the area below, especially the area where Tian was. He hoped that Tian's performance could be more amazing and create more miracles for the human race. Because his side of the Terran monks, the strength of the Terran, Yenlai's heart is very clear. Looking forward to these monks can defeat the underworld is impossible. If we can achieve the goal of self-insurance or less loss, it is the best result. At present, there is only one friar in the whole spiritual realm of the great wilderness. Even Yenlai, a great friar in the heavenly palace, can't see through.
That is Tian. Although I don't think Tian alone can do much more, Yenlai still continues to pay attention to Tian's every move.
At this time, Tian had spent a lot of mana after a long time of fierce fighting, especially the frequent use of thunder attribute Taoism. He took advantage of people's inattention and secretly swallowed a drop of nature liquid. In an instant, his magic power returned to the peak state, and he pursued and killed Mingxiu's flesh and bones. Up to now, he didn't know how many meditations he had killed, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. He had no idea at all. Everywhere he went, there was the sound of explosion everywhere. One explosion had not yet fallen, and Tian had already detonated another group of meditation elsewhere. The underworld finally retreated under the attack of Tian. It was not the defeat of a certain area before, but the whole defeat of the whole Ming army. In the direction Tian went, no matter it was bones attached to the white bones or bones attached to the flesh, no one else dared to let Tian get too close to his body. After a period of fighting, those meditation practitioners also found some rules, that is, if they are far away from Tian, they will be safe.
As long as Tian is close to them, no matter what realm they are in, they will not be spared.
In this way, the battle cannot be fought at all.
Everywhere Tian passed, there were defeated Mingxiu.
Behind him were the human friars who followed him to kill. What's more, Tian's speed and strange figure made those menders scared. Although the speed of meditation is fast, most of it is not as fast as Tian's.
He is unpredictable.
Some meditation practitioners who think Tian is not here just begin to fight with the Terran friars, but Tian suddenly turns back and takes him by surprise. The battlefield turned back, and the Terran friars began to kill the underworld army with absolute superiority. Before the battlefield is as big as the Terran friars to cover up the army of the underworld.
In the vast battlefield, there are many human friars hiding the underworld army.
The underworld is decreasing at a very fast speed.
On the contrary, there are many more corpses of the underworld in the wilderness.
As for the spoils, there was no one to take care of them. There was only one anger in the hearts of the Terran monks, that is, the hatred of the underworld. There is only one idea in the heart of the Terran friars, that is to kill the underworld and defend the Terran. The killing of the underworld lasted for more than 2 hours, until all the underworld were chased into the fog 300 or 400 miles away, and the Terran friars stopped. All the friars of the Four Seas Alliance listen and immediately adjust their breath to restore their mana. The underworld reinforcements are coming, and the next war may be more fierce than before. However, you don't have to worry. The reinforcements of the Terran friars are already on the way. They will arrive a little later. Your task will persist. You can't let the army of the underworld go deep into the Terran.
Otherwise, some ordinary Terrans will be destroyed. At this time, the sky suddenly came a burning voice.
Hear the voice of burning fears, ye Tianqin read a move, put away numerous monsters. After a great war, Yi Tian released more than 300 monsters under his careful command. It was a miracle that there was no damage. Thanks to the fact that these monsters are all around Yi Tian, and everywhere Yi Tian goes, Ningxiu retreats. No one dares to fight against the enemy, and no one will care about those monsters regardless of life and death.
At this time, Yi Tian's mana is still very abundant.
What he worries about is not the arrival of the underworld reinforcements, but the battle situation in Yanlai. As a great friar in Yupu, Yi Tian knew very well that the final victory of such a large-scale war depended on the strength of the top level and the victory of the highest level. For example, in Fansu and Lingyu, 8 great friars attacked and killed him and Ningyao. There were only 8 of them, but there were thousands of disciples in Qingning Fudi. After the fall of themselves in Ningyao, thousands of disciples were still brutally killed by the 8 great friars and had no resistance.
This is the situation at present.
If there is something wrong with the most powerful one of the underworld, once Yanlai has an opportunity, no matter how much meditation comes, it will not be enough for Yanlai to kill himself. When the White Ape Demon King of the ORC was led away by himself, he gave Yanlai such an opportunity. As a result, the top strength of the orc lost so much that in the end, the White Ape Demon King had to compromise and swear blood. Some friars may think that the White Ape Demon King is a terror because his young son has become a hostage.
But Yi Tian knows that this is only one of the reasons. Another reason is that the orc's strength is greatly damaged.
Once they continue to fight with the Terrans, the orcs will not occupy much of it.
Terrans need to cultivate themselves, and so do orcs.
Once the orcs make a blood oath, the Terrans will continue to fight with the underworld and the demon. Instead, the orcs will become fishermen and watch the tiger fight on the mountain. And the White Ape Demon King also firmly believes that the Terran friars will not be surrounded by strong enemies, but will fight against the orcs. As a ruler of a clan, he may pursue and kill for the sake of a moment's anger and the capture of his young son, but when he calms down, the first consideration is the overall interests of the clan. Yi Tian is the master of the blessed land of Qingming, and this kind of leader's mentality is most clear. At this time, hearing the burning voice, Yi Tian releases his mind and explores his position. A moment later, Yi Tian took back his mind and shook his head slightly. He was fully aware of the situation in which the 36 great friars, including Yanlai, used the array flag to arrange the Skylock array. Just when he wants to make a careful investigation, Yanlai suddenly sends a message to him, telling him to pay attention to his own safety and not to be rash in everything. If he feels that the situation is not good, he can hide as much as he can, and he doesn't have to take part in the battle behind. Yi Tian is grateful for Yanlai's maintenance, but now that he has joined the Wanyu League and become a member of the human friars, he will not retreat at this time.
He was thinking about another issue. After pondering for a moment, Yi Tian suddenly moves and flies to the high altitude. Not long, Yi Tian has come to Yanlai and others. Yi Xiaoyu, it's actually dangerous for you to come here.
Let these meditation practitioners know what you look like.
Maybe there will be a special chase for you in the future. We have to guard against it.
Yanlai knew that Yi Tian had come, but when he got to him, he was worried and said, "We can't protect you all the time. The strongest of the underworld, the weakest of them all have the strength of the great friars of the Terran. At this time, even we can only surround them for a moment and a half, and it's impossible to kill them." Yi Tian shrugged his shoulders and said, "Master Yin, in fact, it's the same for me if you don't come here. These meditation practitioners must have seen me countless times. If they can kill people, maybe they have died countless times, and they don't care to appear in front of them." Yanlai's smile, "Yi Xiaoyu see is transparent, in fact it is. Unfortunately, I tell you that you are the one the orcs want to kill the most, the demons want to kill the most, and the underworld want to kill the most.
How is it, tough enough?"
Yi Tian replied with a smile, "I can't believe that Yi Tian's popularity in the great wilderness spiritual realm is so bad, so many people want me to die. However, the younger generation's life is hard enough.
The White Ape Demon King failed to catch me. In the Magic City, the demons also failed to catch me. It's estimated that these meditation may not do anything to the younger generation. Be careful, Yi Xiaoyu, don't be careless.
Yanlai still appreciates Yi Tian's courage, but it's related to his life and family.
He still deliberately reminds Yi Tian. By the way, Yi Xiaoyu came here this time, but what's the matter? Immediately, Inflammation Fierce asks away. Why? Yi Tian nodded slightly. Yes, there are some ideas. Come and verify them. How about the specific situation? I'll explain it to the leader later. Hearing Yi Tian say so, Yanlai's eyes are bright.
Although he doesn't know what Yi Tian means, all the amazing actions Yi Tian brings are the major events that shake the Terran.
To some extent, they are all from different angles to benefit the Terran and save the Terran. Maybe this time there will be something unexpected.
Think so, Yanlai just nodded to Leaf Day with a smile, then no longer interfere with Leaf Day's affair. Because of the lack of time, Yi Tian just nodded to the other great friars, and then looked through the transparent shield at the many strong men of the underworld in the field.
Boom!
The 9th Yuming Emperor hated Yi Tian very much. When he saw that the monk who had stirred up the great plan of the underworld family had arrived here, he couldn't help gesturing. A bone object with dazzling golden light suddenly hit Yi Tian.
The bone artifacts hit the extremely strong shield and made a deafening sound.
The shield was slightly deformed and then restored to its original state. However, the golden bone artifacts were bounced back by the shield. Yi Tianqi knew that this would be the case. He didn't even blink his eyelids, but Yuan Tian's eyes were shining through, carefully observing the strong men of the underworld. No matter how fierce the reaction of those meditation insight is, Yi Tian just ignores it. A moment later, Yi Tian took back his thoughts, and his face was a little disappointed.
Yi Tian didn't find the purple and gold runes in other Ming Xiu's bodies.
It's not that you can't see it wrapped in something, but that it really doesn't exist.
This is a little strange.
It's obvious that these practices all use the body and bones, and other practices all have purple and gold runes in the body and bones, but these people don't.
Is it because their strength is strong enough that they can control the flesh and bones without the purple gold rune? Yi Tian couldn't find the real reason for that, so he could only speculate.
The reason why the monks of the underworld burst out was because of the stimulation of the ghost mask. What they stimulated was not the bone of the body, but the purple and gold runes in the bone. There are no purple and gold runes in these powerful meditation bodies, so the method of natural detonation can't be implemented. It may not need purple gold rune to detonate, but the probability is too low.
Even Yi Tian does not believe this kind of assumption.
Because of the shield barrier, even if it can cause bone explosion, it cannot be achieved here. Unless you go into the shield, or take out the meditation insight for an experiment. But in the current situation, it is obvious that neither method is applicable.
I am a monk in Longmen realm.
When I enter the shield, once the mask fails, I will surely die.
If you can catch one of them, Yanlai and others will do it. How?
See Yi Tian to take back the vision, the inflammation fierce spreads a sound to ask away. Yi Tian shook his head slightly and said, there is no major discovery for the time being. It is said that there is no major discovery, but this discovery is also very important to Yi Tian. At least it will not let Yi Tian be as unscrupulous as before in the face of meditation with his face mask. Knowing that there are no purple and gold runes in the bones of these powerful meditation appendages, he will be more careful when facing such a level of meditation in the future. This has to be said to be an important harvest. After answering Yanlai's questions, Yi Tian is still unwilling. He continues to turn around and use Yuan Tianyan to observe the shield called Suo Tianjin. Under the light of Yuan Tian Eye, the original transparent shield without any singularity immediately turned into colorful lines and runes.
There are even black and white lines.
Rune patterns are also extremely complex, large in number and various in variety. They intersect with each other and move in a very strange track in the line. Between rune and line, between line and line, between rune and rune all the time, it stimulates the extremely terrifying energy to wrap the line and rune. Yi Tian stood quietly in front of the shield, silently feeling the changes of those runes and lines. At the same time, he quickly compared the ancient book that On Yuan Mountain gave him. A moment later, Yi Tian's face relaxed, and then his brows wrinkled again, and he continued to observe. Yanlai and others don't know what Yi Tian wants to do, but they don't make a sound to disturb. The practitioners in the shield didn't know what they thought. They just looked at Yi Tian outside the shield and glared, but they didn't make a meaningless attack. After a while, Yi Tian's look relaxed again, then he moved his eyes and looked at Yen Lai, Yen Alliance leader. Dare to ask, this Taoist field is called Suotian Array. Haha, Yi Xiaodo's attainments in the field are really beyond my expectation. I didn't expect you to know this array. The burning fierce smile returns away. When Yi Tian heard the words, he had a deeper feeling in his heart. He took a look at the array flag in Yenlia's hand and continued, the leader of Yenlai League knows that this set of array flags for locking the sky array is not complete, or not intact. It's slightly incomplete. Incomplete? I really don't know that the sky locking array flag is the treasure of the Wanyu League handed down from generation to generation. It's a strange array in ancient times. It can't be used unless there is a disaster of killing the nation. Because there are not many powers left in the array flag, I'm afraid they can't be used several times. The array flag was passed down by several alliance leaders, but I didn't hear about the fragility. Yenlai continues to spread a sound way, but the facial expression is a little confused. Don't know Leaf Day is from where see. Since Yi Tianning knows Suotianjin, in the eyes of Yenlai, Yi Tian's weight is heavier. Let alone ordinary monks, or even some monks who transform the divine realm, may not know that there is such a thing in Wanyu League, let alone see through the mystery. Listen to Yenlai say so. Leaf Day didn't continue to say what, but come to Yenlai's front, carefully observed the array flag in his hand. A moment later, Yi Tian nodded slightly, pondered for a while, flew to the next great friar, and continued to observe the array flag. After watching this flag, Yi Tian did not stop. He came to the next great friar again and continued to observe. And so on. It took a long time for Yi Tian Kai to read all the 36 array flags. Some of the flags took a long time, while others left after a glance. Moreover, the more you see the end, the faster Yi Tian is. Until all the banners had been read, Yi Tian Kai came to Yen Lai and asked, Alliance leader, does this array need to be urged by the monks in heaven to trap the monk in heaven? Yes, since Yi Xiaoyu knows that it's Suotianjin, he must know this method. Is there any problem? Yen Lai asked in a daze. This question is almost beyond doubt. It's quite common sense. Don't you need powerful monks to urge you to trap powerful foreigners? But when Yi Tian heard Yen Lai say this, he couldn't help but smile and send a random voice back, so, I say that the Skylock array is incomplete. The originally complete Skylock array flag doesn't need to be urged by the monks in the Heavenly Palace, but it can also trap the strong in the Heavenly Palace. Really? Can it be so? Yen Lai's face was shocked when he heard the words. He knew very well that if he had a complete lock sky array, it would be equivalent to having one more monk in heaven. For example, if he used lock sky array to trap the 9 Yuming Emperor, instead of Yen Lai taking charge of the array himself, Yen Lai would be free to do anything to the underworld. The idea is very good, but Yen Lai's mind immediately calms down and says with regret, it's a pity that this array flag is incomplete. Maybe the alliance leaders of all ages don't know about it, so they don't leave a word. Yi Tian naturally knew what Yen Lai thought in his heart, and continued to say, if you trust the younger generation can repair this array flag, so that it can play the power of a complete array flag. Really, that's true? Yen Lai pupils suddenly enlarged, staring at Yi Tian asked, if really as Yi Tian said, then the significance is too great. On the other hand, it is even more important than the newly built one. Because the newly built Huajia pool was mainly built for low-level monks, but this set of Skylock array flag can trap the powerful spiritual cultivation, so that they can extricate themselves. Naturally, there is no need to elaborate on the contrast. Yi Tian is not surprised that Yen Lai has such a big reaction. Instead, he feels that it is reasonable. He nods his head firmly, such a big event, the younger generation will not make empty words, let alone exaggerate. The younger generation can really repair it. Well, Yi Xiaoyu, you've made another wonderful achievement. When it's over, you can help to repair it. I'll be satisfied with whatever materials and conditions you need. Yen Lai patted Yi Tian's shoulder and said solemnly. Yi Tian shook his head slightly this time and said, you don't have to wait for the array flag to be removed. Now you can repair it. But after the repair, the alliance leader needs to find a great monk in Yupu realm to replace you. In this way, the alliance leader doesn't have to tie himself to this array.
Yi Tian, let's make a vow.
Yen Fierce suddenly did not have any sign ground to come so make leaf de alang. Who knows that Yen Lai is more and more solemn. What I said is true, you and I are my brothers of different surnames, so you are the younger brother of the leader of Wan Yu League. If there is anything wrong with Wan Yu League in the future, you will be embarrassed to ignore it.
Ha ha ha.
Yi Tian laughs and continues to say, the leader of Yen Alliance is really a good idea. In this way, you can tie me firmly to the realm of the great wilderness spirit.
In fact, I don't have to.
I have promised the Marquis of Lanling that as long as the needs of the people in the realm of the great wilderness spirit, I will help you.
Needless to say, I've made up my mind. When this happens, you and I will bow down.
Now you should repair the array flag first, and be careful not to let out the secret cultivation inside, or the Terran disaster will come.
In Flames strongly exhort away.
Yi Tian hugged his fist and solemnly replied, I know the importance of it, so I won't take it lightly. There are 36 array flags, but one of them has a problem, and the repair is not very complicated. Because of the imperfection, the power of the field is greatly reduced. If the power can be improved after the repair, even if the leader is not required to preside over it, it will definitely be able to hold these secret practitioners. However, I found another problem just now. Once the array flag is completely restored, the energy consumed will also be greatly increased. After countless years, the energy stored in this set of ancient array flag has been very little.
Once it is exhausted, it will no longer be trapped in the meditation. At that time, the alliance leader needs to make proper arrangements to avoid accidents.
After the array flag is removed, the younger generation is using their means to replenish the energy for the array flag. In this way, the array flag can continue to be used and can still be used as the treasure of Jinmeng.
Listen to Yi Tian finish. Yen Lai excitedly holds Yi Tian's hand. Unfortunately, I'm not a nun, otherwise. Stop. Stop. Alliance leader, if you're a nun, I don't dare to think about it. You see, your wrinkles are so deep. Do you think I'm a person who lacks maternal love?
The leaf day finishes saying to laugh to get up. The inflammation fears also follow to send out the happy laughter. After this joke, the distance between the two people was shortened a lot. Because they always use the technique of sound transmission to communicate, others don't know what they are talking about. This situation surprised the great friars, but they didn't ask many questions.
Well, don't say more. Which array flag did you say is wrong?
Yen Lai pointed to the laughter and began to normalize.
It's the array flag in the hands of the elder. Yi Tian Chao, a good-looking lady, pointed and said. Yen Lai nodded slightly and said a few words to the nun. Then he said to Yi Tian, you can go there.
Yi Tian came to the nun and nodded to her, then looked at the array flag in her hand. Because there is a shield for the attack field, the nun just inputs a little mana into the array flag to stimulate the energy contained in it and maintain the operation of the field.
Yi Tian looks at the array flag carefully again.
Suddenly he moves his hand and takes out the fierce soldier's flying sword. With a move in his mind, the flying sword becomes smaller and shorter. Hold the fierce soldier's flying sword in the right hand, hold a corner of the array flag in the left hand, gently pick a golden metal line at the edge, and then pick it at the other end. This piece of metal wire was cut down by Yi Tian. This piece of metal wire is on every array flag, but it is not necessary to form the array flag. It's the spare material left by the field master who refined the array flag at the beginning, so as not to damage the array flag and find no substitute material. It can be seen that the field master's mind is so delicate. After receiving the metal wire, Yi Tian picked out the thread of the metal wire at the flag, then mobilized the true fire of the Sami, melted the broken ends of the two pieces of metal wire with the real fire of the Samadhi, and then handled the fuse well carefully, making it smooth and uniform. Later, Yi Tian picked up a piece of metal thread and went back and forth on the array flag, weaving the metal thread into the complex rune pattern of the array flag. Although the distance was not very long, Yi Tian did it very carefully. For a short distance, it took him more than half an hour to finish the final weaving. In the last process, Yi Tian mobilized Samadhi Jinhua again to connect the metal thread with the other end of the array flag, so that it was completed. Because the thread ends at the original fracture are extremely hidden. If He Tian is not proficient in the field and knows the Skylock array very well, it would be difficult for ordinary monks to find out the mystery. Fire Alliance Leader, the array flag has been completely restored. If you want to play all the powers, you need to input mana here in the main array flag. Back to Yenlai's side, Yi Tianchao pointed to the array flag in his hand and said, then you can be another great friar of Yupu realm to preside over the array. Well, don't rush to activate all the powers. There's still a long way to go before the reinforcements of the underworld come. When they come, I'll give them a taste of some of them. By the way, I'll make the 9 Yuming Emperor feel sad. Yenlai takes a look at the 9 Yuming Emperor in the shield, and then takes out a message sign, which inspires him to go out. Yenlai is looking at Zhu Yuming Emperor, and Zhu Yuming Emperor is also looking at Yenlai and Yetian. At this time, there is a change in his face. I don't know what he is thinking. Obviously, all the actions here must be aimed at the underworld. Yenlai didn't pay much attention to the Emperor of the 9th Netherworld. After waiting for a moment, he saw a ripple in the sky. A middle-aged monk with black beard came out of the sky and waved to him. When that person's body shape flashed, it was already in front of Yenlai. What's the situation over there? Yenlai didn't first say about the array flag, but first asked about the situation of the demons. Monk Namaran said, report back to the leader of the alliance. There is a slight change in the demons. There are millions of demons on the border, but they didn't attack. They are on guard. It is estimated that they are prepared to wait for the outcome of the war here before they make follow-up actions. So the key is here. If we are defeated here, I'm afraid there will be more demons driving straight in and taking advantage of the fire. If we win here, the demons will have to retreat. Yenlai called Hum away. Hum, all are a group of old slicks, all want to sit to take advantage of fishermen. I will never let them succeed. Later, you will take charge of this battle for me. I will personally fight against the underworld. The friar with beautiful beard was stunned and said in a hurry, Alliance Leader, Jodio is in the array. If you don't personally preside over it, I'm afraid you can't trap Jodio at all. Yenlai pointed to Yi Tian. Originally, the array flag was incomplete. I need to personally preside over it. Now Yi Xiaoyu has repaired the array flag. It's okay to preside over Yupujing, but I need to inspire here. When he said this, Yenlai explained it to the friar. When Yenlai says that Yi Tian has repaired the array flag, the friar with beautiful beard can't help but look at Yi Tian, and his eyes are full of kindness, nodding slightly to Yi Tian. Obviously this person also knows Yi Tian, but Yi Tian still doesn't know his identity. Yi Tian just nodded his head and said hello. For other monks and longmen, the great monk in Yupu is like a towering mountain. However, Yi Tian was a great monk in Yupu in his previous life. Due to his long-term habit, he always regarded the monks in this realm as his peers. Sometimes, Yi Tian had to call some weaker beings as his predecessors, but he had to do so because of the limitations of the environment at that time. It can be said that he can bend and stretch, but he doesn't really treat each other as a senior in his heart. To Yi Tian this action, that beautiful beard friar didn't have the slightest displeasure of reaction, on the contrary feel should be so general. Then Yenlai gave the array flag to Friar Meiran. Seeing that he inspired the array flag, the shield flashed. It seemed that it was much thicker than before. Then he confidently went to one side with Yi Tian and asked, what materials do you need to add power to the array flag? All kinds of top-quality fairy jade with 5 shape attributes are okay. Yi Tian said directly. Yenlai slightly pondered and said, I will make up enough of these materials. I won't delay the replenishment of the array flag. The Xianyu that originally circulated in the spiritual realm of the Great Wilderness were all ordinary inferior Xianyu. On top of inferior Xianyu, there were intermediate Xianyu, and on top of intermediate Xianyu, there were superior Xianyu. And the best fairy jade is much purer than the best one. It is usually the chalcedony of a certain fairy jade vein, and the yield is very small. So far, Yi Tian hasn't seen any of the best fairy jade in the Great Wilderness. At best, Yi Tian has only seen a few pieces of high-quality fairy jade. As for the Xianyu that Yenlai gave to Yi Tian, and the Xianyu that he got from the treasure house of the Magic City, they are all inferior Xianyu. The inferior is jade, and the superior is treasure. Therefore, the fairy jade usually refers to the inferior. Yen Lai uses the word cuo to let Yi Tian know that even Wan Yu League is a rare treasure. There's no way to supplement the power of the ancient strange array, Suatan, unless it's the best fairy jade. Seeing that Yen Lai and others are not moving outside, the underworld and the shield of the lock array can't help it, and hundreds of Ming Xiu begin to launch a fierce attack on the shield. For a moment, the roar was so loud that the monks who maintained the field operation had to input mana into the array flag to maintain the operation of the Skylock array. This time, it seems that the 9th Yu Ming Emperor made up his mind not to break the Skylock array, and he never stopped attacking. Under the strong attack, the shield of the Skylock array was constantly deformed, but fortunately, the power added in time, and immediately returned to the original spherical state after the deformation. There was no accident. In such a situation, half an hour later, suddenly, with a cold look, he looked at the 9 Yu Ming Emperor in the shield. 9 Yu, the ghosts you mentioned are coming. I'll see how I clean them up. Yen Lai, dare you. 9 Yu Ming Emperor's words haven't finished, burning fierce body shape has disappeared from the original place. I'll see it, too. Yi Tian casually said is also a body shape sink to fall down. At this time, in the low altitude, the reinforcement of the monk met with the defeated monk, who had already rushed out of the fog for nearly 300 li and rushed to the Terran friars. No one can tell how many people there are. In a word, there are countless people, and there is no end in sight. Although there are a large number of Terran friars, after just a few days of war, their mana is seriously depleted, and some of them are injured. Seeing that the underworld is coming fiercely, and most of them are new forces who have never participated in the war, they can't help showing their dignified look. No one knows that in such a big war, he can still come back alive. But even so, all the monks were ready to fight with the underworld with weapons in their hands. What about Yi Tian? Some friars can't help looking around in the face of a strong enemy. At this time, many friars, even high-level friars, have a natural sense of dependence on Yi Tian. It seems that as long as Yi Tian is here, they will increase their confidence in winning. Just when many friars were looking for Yi Tian's figure, suddenly a shadow was floating in the low air. It's Alliance Leader, it's Alliance Leader. In an instant, the friars' army was boiling up, and the cheers resounded through the wilderness. At this critical moment when the battle situation is critical, even if the underworld army is killed, the great monk with the highest realm and the strongest strength of the human race suddenly appears. All the monks immediately settle down, as if they have a strong backing. Yi Tian is helping the great friars of the human race to encircle more than 100 high-level meditation, such as the 9th Yu Ming Emperor. Now that I'm here, I want you to stick to it. Don't attack easily. I'll obey my orders at any time. I'll sweep the meditation myself. Finish saying, burning fierce already is disappear from public in front of eyes. There was another burst of cheers from the friars' army, and the morale was shocked in an instant. Yen Lai's words are very clear. There are 3 meanings in all. The supreme ruler of the underworld and some high-level meditation have been trapped. In the second level, Alliance leader Yen Lai can get away and kill Mingxiu himself. The third level, which surprised all the monks most, was that Yi Tian, who was in the late stage of Longmen realm, actually took part in the action of besieging the 9 Yu Ming Emperor. If Yi Tian was just making up for the number and playing the role of soy sauce, the leader of the alliance, Yen Lai, would not say so solemnly. Since he said this, Yi Tian naturally made efforts in the process of besieging the 9th Yu Ming Emperor and other high-level cultivation. A low-level friar even participated in the action of the Great Friar, which made everyone feel a little strange, and they were very curious about what Yi Tian could do with such strength. Yetian, look. Yetian. Is speculation, suddenly someone yelled a sentence. The friars followed the direction pointed by the friar and looked at the sky, but they saw that the figure was getting closer and closer. A young face, well-proportioned and full of strength, a strong eyebrow, with a cold air between the eyebrows. Not Yi Tian or which? Yi Xiaoyu. Just now the leader of Yen Alliance said that Xiaoyu was helping the Great Friar to besiege the 9 Yu Devil Emperor and many other high-level meditation. How did you come down again? Yen City Lord and Yi Tian are still familiar with each other. They immediately fly to meet each other and ask. He didn't mean to ask if the Alliance leader was really saying this kind of words, but asked so strategically.
Yi Tian doesn't think it's a big deal.
When Yan just nodded, the 9 you devil emperor and others are not enough to worry about.
I'm coming down to meet the underworld army.
If so, Lord Yan was sure that Yi Tian was going to the east.
He said, Yi Xiaoyu, just now the leader of Yan Alliance said, let us wait for friars to defend again. Don't attack easily. He wants to kill the enemy himself.
Well, just follow the leader's orders. Yi Tianlu nodded, finished, and was already a flash to the east.
Yi Xiaoyu.
The Lord of Yan called in a hurry, but where could he call back?
Yi Tian had already met the rolling army of the underworld.
At this time, in the dark fog, Yanlai has already made a move to the Ming army. A huge flying sword, driven by it, turned into more than 10 zhan long and swept through the underworld army with the threat of destroying heaven and earth. Where the sword light passed, countless Ming Shou were cut to pieces. Originally, the dense army of the underworld suddenly appeared in a vacuum area, and then was filled up by the surging body and bones. Almost at the same time, Yanlia's huge sword was swept again, which had exactly the same effect. No matter what level of magic cultivation was, it could not stop the power of Yanlia's sword.
Countless bone spears and bone swords flew out of the friar's army and shot at Yanlai. Yanlai didn't have any momentum, but his momentum burst out.
Those bony spears, bony swords, bony knives and many other weapons of the underworld rolled back one after another and shot at the underworld army. The remaining strength of the counterattacked bones is not reduced, and even the lethality is much greater than that before the reflection. All those who are shot by these bones are smashed to pieces. Yan Lai, with the power of one person, swept the underworld in a flash. The third sword was then sent out, which killed countless Ming Shou. When Yan Lai was about to urge the flying sword to sweep again, suddenly 6 figures rose from the army of Ming Shou and flew to the high altitude.
Hum.
Yan Lai snorted coldly, gestured and pointed at the huge sword. The huge sword turned into a huge sword light in the air and chopped the 6 Ming Shou. Seeing this, the 6 men urged each of them to send a bone gun to meet the huge sword. The bone gun also grew bigger and collided with the burning sword.
Ka!
There was a loud noise, 6 bone guns were broken at the same time, and the huge sword continued to chop to the 6 Ming Shou.
Set.
At the same time, Yanlai gave a big drink, and a mana burst out. He turned into a dragon and trapped the 6 Ming Shou. It's a fool's dream to save Joyo old ghost with a few Ming Zuns. Yanlai gestured, but the sword didn't know how to go through the empty shadow of the dragon and killed one of them. Then the dragon suddenly turned over and swept around, narrowing the encirclement. One of them, Ming Shou, was swallowed directly by the dragon like a living creature, and disappeared in a moment. When Yanlai killed the powerful Ming Zun one after another, the Ming Shou army below swept to the human friars like a tide. As soon as Yanlia's eyes were fixed, he waved his sword again and chopped at a Ming Zun who was entangled by the dragon. Although you don't need to worry about any accident, these Ming Zuns are surprisingly powerful. They should be only half a step away from achieving the realm of the Ming Emperor. If you want to kill them all, it will take a little time even if it is inflamed. At this time, he was a little anxious. If he let go of Ming Zun, the participating Ming Zun would rush up to attack the great friars who urged the array flag. It is very likely that they would break the lock of the sky array. Absolutely can't put them up. However, at this time, the low altitude, the tide of meditation, may be a charge, will let the Terran friars at the bottom of the damage. This is not what Yan Lai wants to see. But in front of us, we can only kill the Ming Zun first to ensure the overall situation. Once the burning heart is horizontal, the sword light rises again and kills a Ming Zun again. Boom! 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 Almost at the same time, there was a continuous huge sound in the low altitude, earth-shaking. Yanlia's eyes swept, but he found that the situation that the Terran was annihilated by the underworld army did not happen. On the contrary, in a flash of thunder, countless repairs exploded. Among the numerous meditation, he saw a familiar figure, which was Yi Tian. Ka! There was another thunder, and all the flesh and bones within 4 or 5 feet of the nearby Fongyan exploded. Although the killing area is not as good as that of Yanlai, the lethality is extremely consistent, almost without interruption of thunder and explosion. Yi Tian's body shape, everywhere is the sound of explosion, the ghost repair bones flying, extremely tragic. Because of Yi Tian's obstruction, the Ming army is one of the stagnant, and countless bone guns and swords shoot at Yi Tian's position. Yi Tian had already been ready. When the fierce attack came, his figure disappeared from the original place. All of those massive bone artifacts failed, which hurt a lot of meditation by mistake.
However, Yi Tian's attack did not disappear.
Yi Tian, who uses both Feng Dan and Insha at the same time, doesn't even bother to use the thunder attribute Taoist art now. He just holds a face mask and goes back and forth among the underworld army.
No thunder, no lightning, no sign.
Everywhere Yi Tian passed, there were bursts of explosions. There was a vacuum in the area of 45 feet, and no one in this area was spared.
Moreover, Yi Tian's trajectory is extremely strange.
Even if Mingxiu knows that Yi Tian is playing tricks, he can't find any trace of Yi Tian.
Many predictions or random attacks also failed, and Yi Tian was not hurt at all.
This kind of rush let Yi Tian shout to enjoy. At this time, it was different from the previous war. Before, it was a scuffle between the Terran friars and the underworld. Yi Tian had a lot of scruples when he took action. And now, in the uniform Ming army shuttle, all the previous scruples no longer exist. He only needs to travel through the underworld army to kill a large number of underworld practitioners.